What's up, boys and girls? Getting ready to start the Monster Cast here for in a few minutes. What's up, boys and girls? Getting ready to. If you're watching us on X, make sure to repost it, like it, give us that like in there, okay? Help us take our social media back. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure to share it. Rumble, YouTube, same thing. And make sure, if you're not yet, subscribe to the Armed American Radio podcast. Never miss an episode of the live radio broadcast. Now being heard on several hundred radio stations today around the nation, and about 65 or so on the daytime program. KBNP has replaced Dan Bongino with this show at 4 o'clock in Portland, Oregon, if you're watching out there. So you'll catch us at 4 p.m. out on the West Coast in Portland, and a number of other stations, too. You can also watch us on armedamericanradio.com and all that fun stuff. So I'm itching to play that guitar back there for you right now, but then you get into copyright crap, you know what I'm saying? Let's bring it in view, though. Got a really cool strap for it this weekend at Righteous Guitars. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Oh, yeah, see that? Some 223 rounds on that bad boy. Just adds another dimension to an already badass guitar. That's the Les Paul Blueberry Burst in all of her glory. Fun stuff, fun stuff. All right, guys, we've got a good lineup for you. We're talking with Alan Gottlieb. First half, we'll get caught up with Alan and AWR Hawkins on last week's current events. John Lott will be here, and it's going to be a fascinating conversation with John. Some people don't want us to have the conversation we're going to have tonight, but too bad. We speak truth. So you're talking about controversial, non-lethal self-defense tools. How effective are they? And those of you that are longtime listeners might know that I've only had 2 of those type products advertised on the show over the last 16 years. And we'll go into a deep dive with John about that tonight. I'm not a big fan of that, but there's a part of me that wants you, if you are, not wanting to carry lethal self-defense, some of you, I get that. I would say change your minds on that. But would I rather have you have something non-lethal? I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about with John. Great arguments on both sides. I think you're going to enjoy it. And then we'll welcome Ryan Petty, just back from Vegas today, officially in the bottom half of the second hour as a latest member of the roundtable, permanent crew member. Then we'll go into the roundtable in the last hour of the broadcast. We'll see a good show, some fun topics, particularly that one with John. Don't miss that. That's coming up at 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. You don't want to miss that. That's going to be a fascinating conversation. Could wind up taking the entire half hour. Oh, and I said 9:30, 6:30. No, it's 9 o'clock to 9:30 Eastern, 6 to 6:30 Pacific time. All right, guys, we're going to get the spinning logo up for you. We'll see you here on the national radio broadcast in just a couple minutes.
is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio
At the Patriot Mobile Communication Center.
on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone.
Mark, we know they want to take our guns, and now we're going to make them eat it.
Proudly presented to you by X Insurance.
X Insurance.
Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Oh, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now, being heard on hundreds of radio stations across the nation. We love each and every one of you. Welcome inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me. I am Mark Walters, of course, filling your prescription for freedom here today on this very powerful Sig Sauer Platinum microphone. All of it coming to you from the Patriot Mobile Command Center Ranch, and it's all brought to you by the great X Insurance. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing?
Not too bad today.
How you doing? That came out like, how you doing? I don't know why that came out like that. How you doing? I apologize. Yeah, it did. Yeah. Greg, if I know you're back off a few days, let's get you started. Yeah, let's get you started. Tell people where they can watch the program and all that fun stuff. Participate in the chat. We'll get going with our first guest, Alan Gottlieb.
Sure, if you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters over on YouTube and Rumble. On X, it's at AAR Mark. The usual suspects are going to be armedamericanradio.org or .com. On the right-hand side of that website, you'll see the menu icons. Just give that a click, and when that window opens up, you can select that Watch Live option. If you're driving, hit that Listen Live link, and if you missed any previous episode of this program, just head on over to the podcast link. If you'd like to join our live chat, just head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, that will work. And don't forget Facebook, facebook.com/Armed American Radio. You can watch us, comment. Please like and share the post. Help us take our social media back. Help us get up to 100,000 on Facebook. We're at about 82,000 now. We need your help in climbing those numbers. If you're watching us on X, like and share the posts. Repost them, please. We would appreciate it. And make sure, if you don't already, many thousands of you do, please subscribe to the Armed American Radio podcast and never miss an episode of the Armed American Radio Network national broadcast. Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great today. Thank you, Mark.
I am doing wonderful. Also, it's always a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to start with you with something fun today because I couldn't help myself this past week on the Daily Defense. Cory Booker is a rabid anti-gun zealot. We all know it. This guy stands up and makes a mockery of himself, speaks about Trump and Musk, hating on Trump and Musk for like 25 hours. I guess he sets a record. Yay for Cory Booker. But, you know, Alan, he walked one of his staffers around security at Capitol Hill, and that staffer was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license at the Capitol. How do you call that? You call that schadenfreude? What do you call that?
Well, I guess I'd like to start off with hypocrisy because Cory Booker has never met a gun control, a gun ban bill that he hasn't wanted to go to bed with. And so to have an armed staff member, I mean, forget the fact that he broke rules and that his aide just got arrested for violating law in the Capitol. But the hypocrisy of having an armed guard when he doesn't want any of us to have any guns is really beyond belief, Mark.
Well, it is. So I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive here. I want to get a little psychological here. Does Cory Booker actually hate the right to bear arms?
Well, he says he does, and he votes that way. So maybe he's being not honest about that either. But I think, quite frankly, he's been one of the major anti-gun fanatics in the United States Senate. So it's hard to believe that he likes guns, except when they're there to protect him.
Ah, they're there to protect him. So it would signal to me that he was well aware of this individual's armed. That's why he moved him around security when he entered the Capitol, which adds to the hypocrisy. But
yeah, not for thee, but for me.
Correct. And what I loved about talking about this story over the past couple days on Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, Alan, was, of course, the hypocrisy, a little bit of schadenfreude in there. But mainstream press, where are they? Why aren't they questioning him? I don't know that this led ABC or NBC so we can CBS on CNN, LOL, or MSDNC. Fox covered it.
I haven't seen one major story where especially where they criticized him. What's really interesting too is the gun prohibition lobby. Dead silence. You don't hear anything out of them.
Yeah, Alan's reading my mind because I was going there next. Gifford's been all over X, formerly known as Twitter, on all kinds of things, particularly the ATF. You don't hear crap from them on this. And it just, again, proves our point. And I hate bumper sticker logic till it makes sense, but rules for thee, not for me. And that does make sense in this case. So let's stay on the anti-gunners.
But hold on a second. I want to go a little further because
Please.
this hypocrisy really just isn't Cory Booker. It's the whole Democratic Party, basically, when it comes to gun rights. Let's be candid about this. We go back in history a little bit, and you had Senator Ted Kennedy, who had a bodyguard with an armed machine gun break the rules and got arrested for this as well. And then, on a lesser scale, I guess, but Dianne Feinstein, who supported every kind of gun ban you could think of, owned a handgun and had a concealed carry permit. And then you've got people like Bill Clinton that would be, pass, gun bans, but quote unquote would always be out there with a rifle, doing a photo op, making it look like he's pro-gun, doing a hunting scene. People are just such hypocrites. It's unbelievable.
It doesn't work for them, though, Alan. It just doesn't work for them. They try to believe their own press. Greg, I hate to put you on the spot, but I might put you on the spot. Do you happen to have that clip from Feinstein handy anywhere, Greg?
Give me a sec.
All right, he'll pop that up, Alan, and when he does, he'll jump in my ear because it's a great time to play that.
Ready?
Go for it, Greg.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Alan, now I think that was 1992. I haven't heard you comment on that in a long time, but that is exactly what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing she was at least honest about that, because up to that point, she was pretty much talking about they don't really want to ban not for taking anybody's guns away. How many times have we heard that from these people?
Yeah, and it's funny when it's their own guns, and it couldn't have happened to a better guy. And again, another interesting point about the Cory Booker takeaway was that, he's a retired Newark cop. They try to lean on that and how somehow that makes it okay. I mean, this guy had to know he was violating Washington, D.C. law, capital law. He was arrested. I hope they throw the book at him. I hope he does time, but I don't know.
Well,
and the mainstream press will never cover it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we have two systems of justice. If you and I tried to walk into Congress with a firearm, we'd be arrested immediately and get a long prison sentence. I'm willing to bet you this guy does no time and he gets a little slap on the wrist. There's two sets of justice, one for us as gun owners and one for the anti-gun prohibition lobby.
Yeah, that's why I said hope, because I agree with you. I'm not going to bet on that in Vegas. Hope. I hope he does. Likely will not. And the media will not cover it. They'll sweep it under the rug. Staying on the anti-gunners. It looked like he was turning his life around now. He's arrested for double murder in Seattle. This is a wild story out of Seattle, because here we have an anti-violence guy who was arrested for what, Alan, in Seattle?
Murder.
With a what?
With a gun.
Good.
Here's a guy. Here's a guy who's working with, an anti-gun, anti-violence group organization in Seattle, and quote unquote, look where he is. And by the way, again, not a peep out of the anti-gun organization he worked for.
So, this is a stupid question, but Dad taught me a long time ago, the only stupid question is the one that never goes asked. Why? Why don't they cover that? Do they know it exposes their agenda? And if they know that's the case and they don't question it for that reason, doesn't that mean they know they're lying?
Of course they know they're lying.
Oh, there's that.
Lying, hypocrites, and this is what we as gun owners have to put up with. This is what our enemy looks like. And you can't trust anything that comes out of their mouth. I mean, it amazes me that the mainstream media or the legacy media allows them to get away with this. And probably because they're all on their side, and that's why.
Well, and there's editorial decisions that are made at the top. They're told not to cover this stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan and I could have a lot of fun with this all day long. But the fact of the matter is, it is hard, Alan, as we'll get ready to go to a break here, so I'll take us with that. We come back. We've got a couple other things to talk with you about, of course. But it's hard for decent people to wrap their head around the fact that these people wake up every day knowing they're going to lie to the American public all day long and do it intentionally. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't believe that, all you have to do is rewind the tape later today and listen to what we were just talking about. The reason they are silent is because they know they're lying. They know their agenda. They know the media will cover for them. Cover for what? Cover for their lies. These people know they're doing it. They wake up every day. I don't want to go through life like that, but it doesn't bother them in the least. When we come back with Alan Gottlieb in the next segment, I want to talk about a Smith & Wesson case and a couple other issues. The Snopes assault weapons ban case in Maryland. We're at 10 already. If you know, you know. If you don't, we'll explain it when we come back from the break with the great Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, which, by the way, you can join us over at saf.org and help us win back our rights from these liars, one case at a time. We'll be right back with Alan.
Yeah, I knew I had that soundbite still up on my soundboard. I just couldn't remember if it was page 2 or page 4.
Well, I apologize. I didn't mean to. I don't want to hit you like that live on 300 plus radio stations. But I had a feeling you knew where that was in the queue at some point.
Yeah, it's fine. I knew I still had it. I just couldn't remember if it was the short or long version, and I had both right next to each other, just wrong page.
Yeah, that worked really well on comment. Was right on comment with what Alan was talking about. I am going to run out of time with him. I am going to go to, let's see here. I think I'm going to go to Snopes first and then the Smith & Wesson suit because the Snopes case, the Fourth Circuit case, is important. I don't want that to get lost in the sauce as we're going to a break. Because as this thing continues to drag on, everybody's that's analyzing this is going all over the board, 10 times. Some people feel 10 times. I feel 10 times. Yeah, okay. They've had plenty of time. It just, to me anyway, that's just my opinion. But I could be dead wrong. You never know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that they'd have done it. You know what I'm saying? I think they'd have done it. But not too sure. Then that Smith & Wesson lawsuit too. And let's see.
Yeah, we might have a couple of listeners out in Amarillo listening tonight. I was telling them about the show last night when they were like, "Why you got to go home so early?"
Were you out in Amarillo?
Yeah, that's where I've been since Thursday.
Okay, I didn't realize you were there. I thought you were sticking around Dallas.
You
had snow in Amarillo.
Yes, it snowed. That's why I was saying record-breaking snowfall in Amarillo.
What's the elevation there? I never thought about it.
I don't know what the elevation is. I'll be honest. Because it's so much closer to New Mexico and Colorado, and a different zone essentially, a weather zone than Dallas is.
Got to be up there.
They get snow every year.
Yeah, like Flagstaff and AZ.
Yeah. But like I was saying, 130-year record was broken yesterday.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That's global warming for you, dude. That's climate
Absolutely.
change.
It was warm as hell. I was sweating my butt off out there.
So I'm going to be doing Cam and Company tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern, taping that up. That'll be fun.
30.
A kid in Texas is now going to try to claim self-defense case. We'll talk about that in a roundtable.
I guess I am not sure which case that is you're talking about.
Kid that was stabbed. You were out of town.
Oh yeah. I saw the I saw the aftermath on social media.
All right, let's rock and roll. Guys, we'll keep the mics and cameras on for you throughout the show today for fun. Why not? At least the mics. The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back. Yeah, welcome back indeed. patriotmobile.com. Golly, the guests that we've brought on from Patriot Mobile have been huge. If you were listening to the Daily Defense last week, Danielle Buck was phenomenal. I called the office and spoke to them and said, man, you guys have got it going on. Patriot Mobile's the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. PatriotMobile.com. My Patriot Mobile phone is down there charging right now. I have another one up here that I'm currently using, but it's PatriotMobile.com/AAR. Go back and listen to those shows. We talked to Danielle on Thursday this past week, and you want to hear these interviews. These people are very passionate at Patriot Mobile and supporting you and your gun rights. And if you want to see that with your own eyes, visit PatriotMobile.com/AAR and check them out. And if you activate a phone, you can do it one line at a time. It takes a matter of minutes with an all-American staff. You can understand them. It's amazing. Funny how that works. And it only takes a few minutes to do that, and you've got a Patriot Mobile phone. And you can support them for supporting you and your gun rights. That's the way it works. Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation. Welcome back, brother. So I was talking during the break with Greg and listeners. I got to go to Snopes with you first. I don't want to let that one run up against the break. That story's too big. It just, I don't know if it keeps getting bigger, Alan, but it keeps getting more, to me, bizarre. We are now 10 times at conference with the Fourth Circuit assault weapons ban case, which we've said ad nauseum, Alan, checks all the boxes. Where are you mentally on this now as we're now going? We talk with you about this with you every week. We're now 10 conferences into this. What does that mean?
It means I'm numb.
I kind of figured that'd be the case.
Well, I, at least on a gun rights case, I 100% believe that no case in the Supreme Court has gone through 10 conferences. Now, I can't say that with any other kind of case because I don't follow them all, right. But I think 10 is rather unusual at this point.
I've not heard of any. So I don't know if that's the record, but I've not heard of any other case going this far. Again, my thought process on this was when we got up in the middle at about 7 or 8, I started to get a little concerned. But as we go to 10 again, I'm right back where I was originally. My thought process is they have had more than enough time. They have had ample time to deny this case. Although that doesn't mean anything. It could mean they just haven't had time to get to it. It could be that simple. But it would tell me that it's a no-brainer. They just keep putting it up there. They'll get to it when they get to it. But you still remain confident that if they grant cert on this case, we win this case hands down.
If they grant cert on it, we're definitely going to win it. The question is, can we get cert granted on it? But I have this other theory with this, Mark. They might be waiting for another gun rights case to come up at the same time, so they can hear more than one at the exact same time. And so they keep holding it over, waiting for another case that they're looking for. It may be an assault weapons ban case, and it may be a different kind of case, but applicable to gun rights. So there could be they're waiting for something else coming up the chain, maybe through the appeals process. And so at this juncture, again, it's who knows, but I think there's a real reason for holding on.
I agree. I don't know what it is, and we will not know. Now, if we see another case come in, then we'll have our answer without them telling us, obviously. But there are multiple cases out there that could work with this. If in fact that's the case, I mean, for another case to go up to the court to seek cert could take, good Lord, how long? I mean, we could be sitting on this for a long time.
It's probably something that's going to be coming up in the next few months, is my guess.
Okay.
If that's what they're doing, we've got cases on 18 to 20-year-olds being able to own, buy, own, or carry firearms. We've got cases on sensitive places. There's a whole lot of reasons why they could be holding this, so they can group a bunch of cases together. So maybe they want this one, but they don't want to take it quite yet because they want to group it with something else.
Okay.
That would be a double win for us.
Yeah, well, that would make it stronger, wouldn't it? That would make any majority opinion in our favor far stronger than just the one case out of the fourth, right?
Well, it would encompass gun rights on a greater scale than just quote-unquote banning so-called assault rifles.
Have you heard anything from the anti-gun camp about this case and cert at all? They're not talking about it that I've seen. Are you familiar with anything?
No, they're not. And again, this is a case they don't want to have heard because they know if it gets heard, they're going to lose it. And so they're trying to not create anything that would create pressure on the court to take the case. So they'd be very quiet.
Yeah, so I would only tell you if you live in New Jersey, if you live in Illinois, if you live in California, or anywhere in the Ninth Circuit for that matter, Third Circuit, Fourth Circuit, you're just going to have to be patient. Seventh Circuit, you're just going to have to be patient, like we all are, and just try to get the universe working in our favor. We want that case to be heard, but if we can strengthen it with another case, so be it. That's just another win-win for us. Alan, the Smith & Wesson case, this is very frustrating stuff. It's maddening. Illinois, would you tell us about it, please?
Yeah, this is a judge in Illinois State Court, that has a rule to allow a case to go forward against Smith & Wesson, arguing the fact that when criminals misuse their guns, they're responsible, and arguing that their advertising has been aimed at quote-unquote young people to buy firearms. And, of course, so-called young people aren't allowed to buy firearms, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But who's really behind this case, though, is the anti-gun prohibition lobby. And they're the ones who have put it together and are trying to guide it through. They picked a court, so to speak, where they think they have favorable rulings for them. And of course, the judge came through with it. This is one that's going to end up going on to appeals, and I'm sure we'll get knocked down. But the idea behind this is to make manufacturers lose a ton of money, millions of dollars litigating a case, and so that they can't, basically stay in business. If they can't stay in business, you and your listeners can't buy guns because nobody's making them. And that's what this is aimed at.
Now, this doesn't seem like judge shopping to me, only because it's a Lake County, Illinois judge, Jorge L. Ortiz, who is allowing this wrongful death lawsuit against Smith & Wesson to proceed. However, you've got a case where, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Highland Park case, if you recall, in Illinois, where 7 people were killed and dozens more were injured when the criminal, I won't mention his name, opened fire at the July 4th, 2022 parade in Highland Park. He's already pled guilty, Alan, and so has his father, on 7 felony counts of reckless conduct. And your quote on the press release, I think, says it all. Such legal actions are precisely why Congress passed the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, the PLCAA as we know it, guys, back during the George W. Bush administration. Smith & Wesson is no more responsible for the evil act committed by the Highland Park shooter than a car manufacturer would be if some drunk behind the wheel smashed into a school bus and caused a fatal crash. We use that analogy all the time because it's absolutely flat out true. And again, it defies, in other words, go back to the first comments that we had at the beginning of the show, Alan. They're lying. They're trying to cost money. They're trying to bankrupt the industry. They lie about it, and they have help in the mainstream media for doing it, and that's extremely frustrating. Quickly, let's go to New York. Hochul. We've only got 30 seconds, but Hochul has signed 3 more gun controls into law in New York. Alan, how many more can they concoct?
Yeah. What can I say? You've got a governor there that wants to rival the most anti-gun, legislators in the country, and she's trying to top herself. She's going to make New York worse than California. That's her game plan, and we all know how bad California is. So, yeah, what can I say?
They just never go away.
New York is no friend of gun owners.
You better believe it. Alan Gottlieb, founder, Second Amendment Foundation. My friend, thank you for being here. We love you. You are the real deal. Ladies and gentlemen, you can join Alan, you can join me, and the many, many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of others in supporting the Second Amendment Foundation by visiting saf.org. We'll be back. The great A.W.R. Hawkins, Ph.D. from Breitbart News right after the break.
Right.
There's a great 2 segments with Alan. Good heavens. He was on it today. He's always on it. Tell you who's had a long day is going to be Ryan. He was sitting on the tarmac waiting for a gate in Tampa at 11:30 this morning on his way back from Vegas, which means he had a really, really early flight in Vegas when you consider the 3-hour difference.
I don't know. I think the 6 hours I spent in the car on the way back from Amarillo was pretty long, too.
Yeah, cars will beat you up more than flights, that's for sure.
Oh, my God. I had to stop a couple times just to stretch the hips out and the lower back. It was just rough. And then my old dog, she just isn't getting along too well. So
if it's an overnight red eye, I love those flights, but they beat the crap out of me the next day when I get home. You've got to get some sleep. Sleeping on an airplane just isn't the same. You think, okay, well, I'm leaving at 11 o'clock at night. Last 3 I took from Phoenix were leaving at 11:55 p.m., getting in at 6:30 in Atlanta. No, that's not 6.5 hours. That's 3 hours, 3.5 hours because of the time difference. So you're really not getting any sleep. But they are, they're relaxing. I'll tell you that. Flying at night up there's not too bad. I don't mind that at all.
It's probably the safest time to fly through Atlanta because during the daytime can be peak anything hours.
Yeah, and I've got some drivers that pick me up that are great about it. They don't mind getting in. You know, coming back up that way from the airport, you run into a little bit of traffic, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Wait a minute. I screwed it up like 3 times. You know what time it is where you're at. Call it 30 minutes after. I just gave him a face.
Yeah. Hey, what time do you want me on that going?
Oh, about 32 after. Dude, good to know. Okay, all right. There you go. And man, I was out here ripping a couple tunes through some research during the day. Boom, this thing shook like.
I saw a lot of trees. I saw a lot of trees between Amarillo and Dallas that hadn't been hit by lightning out in the middle of pastures. And, you know, obviously the pasture had regrown, but the tree was going black. And I was like, wow.
Fire in the attic because of the smoke.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monstercast continues here from the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. Please, please, please go out of your way to support all of our partners that make the show possible 6 days a week. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. So you know how to do that. Just go and check them out. They've got great products over there. Goat Guns has been really flying off the shelves. Greg, real quick before we go to AWR, I picked up another one. I ordered it Friday.
Which one did you get?
I'm not sure. I forget which one it was. It was one of the new releases. I just bought it.
Yeah.
It was just one of the new releases that were out. I believe it's a...
I think it's a SIG rifle, but I could be wrong.
I think it is, because it was about 16. I think it was a SIG rifle.
The gray-colored
I think so,
rifle?
yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been a SIG.
I've seen that one on Instagram advertised a lot because obviously I get the advertisement for Goat Guns, but yeah, it looks pretty slick.
Yeah, goatguns.com, ladies and gentlemen, goatguns.com. We don't have promo codes over there. We just scratch each other's backs. Those things are really cool. AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News. My brother, how are you doing, man?
Doing good.
Well, I tell you, you got a lot going on here. I was going to start with a happy ending story, but I don't want to, and I'll tell you why. Because I ended the segment with Gottlieb talking about Governor Hochul, and you've got a little bit more detail in here on. She signed 3 bills into law this past week, including one that's in your headline, allowing credit cards to track ammo purchases. Have these people never met a new law they don't like or going to, and I asked Alan, what next, there'll be something else in the next legislative session if they're not done already. What's up with this?
Right. Well, I mean, this will only last until someone gets a good challenge. Because what they're doing is they're going to have to set in their next legislative group. They'll have to set SET what they believe is a reasonable amount of ammo. And if you exceed that amount of ammo, then they'll have to come in your house, which will violate the Fourth Amendment. And so there'll be a lawsuit like crazy right then. But the shame is with this kind of law, a couple of people will probably be punished before a lawsuit gets this to where it needs to go. It's absolutely asinine. I would never live in a state ruled by Democrats ever. And that's what you have if you live in New York.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit because you're right. People are going to get caught up in this. And what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is there are going to be people that lose maybe their home, not to mention their sanity. Well, I don't know who knows what their financial position is, but it's going to cost them a ton of money. And I think even more important than that is it's going to take another challenge. AWR, and we know that. They know that. They're hoping that people will just capitulate because they don't want to fall prey. This is just another form of government lawfare at the state level, is it not?
Oh, yeah, that's all it is. I mean, and it is going to get a few people, but there's no way it contributes to safety, and here's why. Do you think criminals who have stolen their guns to commit heinous crimes, do you think after stealing their guns to commit heinous crimes, they go to a brick-and-mortar gun store to buy ammo? I mean, it's the wildest idea ever to think I'm dumb enough that you're going to sell this in a way to monitor evil people who would stockpile too much ammo. I mean, I'm sorry. Don't insult my intelligence.
No,
this is just another way to curtail the exercise of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that's all it is. Now, two of the other laws, ladies and gentlemen, let's just go here with AWR while we're here. Those of you that live in New York, you're listening WRCN on the island up in New York City. You guys are tuned in. Oh, man. What a mess. What an absolute mess. We love you guys and all your local partners, by the way. Thanks for being an affiliate for so long. You guys are awesome up there. Albany, Schenectady, Rochester, you're all listening. The next one is warning signs. She enhanced the warning signs that gun dealers must provide?
You'll remember me writing on this. They basically have to advertise the dangers of gun ownership inside gun stores. Or they may be allowed to put it on the front of the door. I can't remember, so I don't want to specify where the warning has to be, but they have to warn about the dangers of firearm ownership, and whatever those are.
Well, and
it's like.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's the same approach they took to Marlboro. It's the same approach they took to tobacco, and now they're taking it to guns, and ultimately, they're just doing everything they can, as I said a while ago, to curtail and damage the exercise of the Second Amendment.
I'm going to ask this. I probably already know the answer. It's probably a rhetorical question, but isn't this just another move by Hochul to try to one-up California?
Well, yeah, she bragged about having the strongest gun laws. She doesn't have the strongest. California does. But I'll tell you what, New York is in a sprint. They're in a sprint to try to get the strongest.
Intentionally.
And it's New York, Colorado, both want to be the next California. And both states are running like wild to try to get to that finish line.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out, ladies and gentlemen, again, we warned you, if you live behind the blue wall, post November 5th, this is what's going to happen to you. And they are on steroids, and it's going to get worse. The money is flowing into your state, whichever one it is. New York, obviously you're aware of that. But the third gun control measure that she signed, again, this is baffling but not baffling, but baffling but not baffling, but baffling but really not. And that is bans what commonly, we've talked about this before, as Glock switches, which you point out in your piece, ironically, are already banned at the federal level. So the way I'm approaching this is just a free gimme to them to say that they've done something because it's already banned at the federal level. And we know Alabama, red state, 50% of you in Alabama that are tuned in, your state, 50% of you have a permit even though you don't need one because it's constitutional carry. And Kay Ivey signed the same thing, a Republican governor. This is just a way to appease who? AWR, who? When it's already illegal.
Well, the only thing you can be appeasing at this point are donors.
Agreed. It's the money, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the money. It's pretty much that simple. Before we go to the break, I love this because you and I were just talking about this a couple weeks ago, but Pam Bondi approved restoration of Mel Gibson's gun rights on Thursday. That happened quickly, I should say. Did we drop AWR? We still have him?
My opinion.
There you go.
But
Say
anyway,
that again. We lost
because-
you. Say that again if you would. We dropped you for a second. Go ahead.
That was my fault. I said, yeah, Mel Gibson deserves it, in my opinion, but no one asked for my opinion. But I love that Pam Bondi is out there stirring the pot, getting good things done for a change in the Justice Department, restoring rights to people, and it's a wonderful thing.
All right, when we come back from this break, ladies and gentlemen, Greg, how much time do I have? That drop threw me off a little bit.
Over a minute.
Oh, we've got over a minute. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Bondi. I was going to go there with you anyway, so it's a great segue. We'll likely carry that. Where is the report, AWR, that Trump wanted from the DOJ? When are we going to get this? Stephen Gutowski's writing about it. Many others are talking about it. You're waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. Bondi doing a lot better than we would get from Merrick Garland, but where is the report? Are we going to see it? Okay, looks like
he muted.
I mean, I'm here. I thought you were going into your commercial break. I apologize.
okay.
I didn't know you were at.
Where's that report?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's not really something on my radar. I'll be honest with you. I'm chasing other things.
Okay, well, it's on mine. We're going to keep our eyes peeled on that, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Gutowski's writing about it over at The Reload. I got a message from him just the other day. Where is this thing? We'll keep our eyes peeled for it. I have a feeling we'll see it, but we're seeing bits and pieces and snippets of it right now. But I'd like to see the entire report. When we come back from the break, more to cover with AWR Hawkins. A couple happy ending stories in here, no doubt. And Ron DeSantis, those of you who are listening in Florida right now, I'm getting the sense that Ron DeSantis is over the Senate Republicans not moving on what he wants to see done in his final term as governor as far as restoring gun rights. We'll be back to talk more about it with AWR Hawkins. He wrote about it. We'll be back right after the break. Don't go away. I can't believe we're at the last segment already. Good Lord. Guys, going to fly by. Buckle on. Buckle in. Buckle in. Non-lethal self-defense tools, and it will be a fascinating conversation. Many of you have asked me over the years, why offer a letter to any of your partners offer a
Wasn't that on the Tiger Light?
Tiger Light, yeah.
Yeah.
The piece was actually referred to as the dad. A pepper spray piece with a really great rubber grip on it that was GPS enabled, that if it were deployed, for example, if my daughter were on campus and had deployed it, I would be notified. And the ultimate goal was the full load check. I don't know how that's from John today. And again, I've wrestled with the same thing. I don't want to give away the conversation, but it will be a fascinating one. And, there's a lot of people that don't want us having this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not. Guys, sorry, I think that spinning logo had sound on it. I apologize. It's muted out for that reason. I do apologize for that. We won't play that one during the break when the mics are on.
30.
Sorry, guys.
My nephew sent me a picture of his front yard, nice and sunny and no snow to be seen anywhere.
Yeah.
Texas BS weather.
Just the way Andy Hoosier likes it. We're going to talk some UFOs with Andy tomorrow. The CIA report was wild while you were gone.
Nice.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Yes, back indeed. Welcome back inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day in front of a 6-hour mic on the weekend show. It's all brought to you by the Great X Insurance here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. You can find all of our partners, including Barrel Buddy. Got a big meeting with those guys tomorrow. One of you is going to walk away, maybe two of you are going to walk away with a great package over there. As soon as we get that nailed down, you will be the first to know. But in the meantime, you can check out barrelbuddy.com, barrelbuddy.com, and pitch the patch, clean your guns the right way. Get rid of the patch. The patch is no good. It's dirty, it's messy, it stinks. Barrel Buddy, super clean. You can clean your guns in less than 2 minutes. You can do it right on the range, put it right back in your holster, right back in your range bag. Barrelbuddy.com, and they're under $15 for a bag. It's just the real deal, as is ammosquared.com, ammosquared.com. And I do have a public service announcement for you. Those of you that are watching the program, I apologize. I was talking over the breaks, and I wanted you to hear what I was saying in the video, and there was playing sound. We will not have that happen again, just to let you know. So don't tune out because of that during the breaks, all right? AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Welcome back, brother.
Oh, great to be back.
Always a pleasure. Let's go to Ron DeSantis in Florida. Your headline says it all. And I'm getting the sense now that he's pissed. But DeSantis mocks state GOP's lack of support for open carry. Are we Florida or are we San Francisco? Now, this, as you know, has been a bone of contention with gun owners in Florida for a long, long time. DeSantis is trying to get something done. Or is he just talking a big game now because he knows it's not going to move? What's your take?
No, I think he's trying to get it done. But see, in Florida, we talked a while ago, if you live in a state and you keep electing these Democrats, then you're going to get what you're seeing in New York. Well, in Florida, you keep electing these rhinos, this is what you're going to get. So, you elect these rhinos who get in leadership positions and they lock everything up, and you're back to they're just a Republican version of the Democrats who ruled in the 80s, the little country club Democrats who held power in the 80s and tried to convince everybody, well, they were fiscally conservative, and that's exactly what we've got with these people in Florida. So Floridians have made their own bed here by continuing to vote for these people.
I can't argue with that. Let me read a tweet X, formerly known as Twitter, from Florida Gun Rights. We could not agree more with Governor Ron DeSantis. It is an embarrassment that Florida cannot pass simple pro-Second Amendment legislation like open carry. It is entirely unacceptable, and every Republican in the legislature should be ashamed of themselves. As the governor said, are we Florida or are we San Francisco? And here's the reminder. Primary season will be here soon, and we will make sure gun owners are informed on this gross inaction. And I spoke with leaders over at Florida Carry over the weekend. Same thing, okay? Same thing. So, Florida, you got to get it together. You got to get back to being the gunshine state. It's pretty much that simple, and it's going to require you getting rid of the rhino establishment, which appears to be over in the Senate now, not as much in the House. Nashville shooter, what do we know about this? Because, you know, I guess the final report is out on this. What you wrote extensively about this when it was happening, and you just did. What's going on? What do we know now to close it out?
Well, she had a new target, a first target, and she chose not to attack that target because the students were predominantly black, and she was worried. She planned on dying in the attack, and so she wouldn't be around to defend her just cause. And so she was worried she'd be labeled a racist in her death. So she didn't attack there. She instead went to a school where the students were predominantly white.
So she's worried. Is she a she or a he? What is she or he?
Well, she's a she biologically, so she'll always be a she to me.
Okay,
but
good.
she is a transgender she. So, you know, that needs to be in there because transgenderism wrecks these people's minds. And the mainstream media doesn't ever want that mentioned, but I'll mention it every chance I get.
Well, I'm glad you do, and that's why we want you on the platform to do that. So if I hear you correctly, the murderer was concerned about being called a racist after committing her murders and her own suicide, whether it was by cop or her own hand. Did I hear that right?
Right. That's what she was worried about, not the loss of the innocent lives. Matter of fact, she wrote that she wanted to, and I'm paraphrasing, but she wanted to take the lives of children because that's what they had done at Columbine. And she wanted to be a quote-unquote god like the Columbine killers.
Yet I also want to point out, as you know, she had extensive writings on this. No so-called manifesto. This cops still didn't find, from what I understand, her actual reason for doing this. However, I got to go to the parents on this. She had been planning this AWR for years. How the parents did not know, I don't know. But it's possible she was good at covering it up. The reports are out now, according to the Nashville PD, that she, in fact, if her parents discovered what she was doing, her plan was to murder her parents before murdering at the school. Am I right on that?
I do not know the timeline. I know I did cover on her having plans to kill her father, but I can't remember where that fell.
Okay. Let's go to a happy ending story to close out. A couple of them if we can squeeze them in. Homeowner shoots, critically wounds alleged car burglar. Shreveport, Louisiana. Love you, Shreveport, Louisiana. What's going on here?
That's it. He went outside, and when he started making the 911 call, one of the burglars came at him, and he made him feel threatened for his life, so he popped it twice. Popped him twice.
Big mistake. Big mistake. Big mistake. Big mistake. And let's see. I had another one in here I wanted to talk with you about. Homeowner opens fire, shoots suspect through door. These are always interesting cases here through the door. The San Antonio.
Yeah,
guys.
but to be fair, the suspect was allegedly trying to come through that door. But, yeah, it's how it goes. I mean, again, that one's in San Antonio. Makes my point. If you're going to be stupid, don't be stupid in Texas. But I don't want to leave the good people in Louisiana hanging because I have plenty of good friends there, including the good governor, Jeff Landry. And I will say this. If you're going to be stupid, don't be stupid in Texas. If you're trying to find another state to use so you can be stupid, Louisiana is not an option either. They will kill you fast for trying to harm them or their family. Learn your lesson. Those two states should not be states for you to try this stuff in.
Yeah, and it always amazes me when I see these idiots in their 40s, 50s, and 60s doing this, okay? Old enough to know better, especially if you're growing up into your 40s in the state of Texas. This guy was banging on the front door, making threats. I guess on the 911 call, the caller had said the suspect was yelling that his intention was to get inside and kill him. So police indicated the suspect who survived will be charged with attempted burglary with intent to assault. AWR, 30 seconds. Tell people where they can find you, brother, and thank you for being here, as always.
Well, always Breitbart.com. They can go to my Twitter, X, at AWR Hawkins, or my Instagram, AWR_Hawkins.
What are you up, a couple 100,000 on your Instagram now?
Probably about 150.
There you go. AWR Hawkins on Instagram. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, he posts some of the best content up there on Instagram. You got to love it. AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Thank you, my brother, for being here. We appreciate it very much. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast will continue. Boy, trust me when I tell you this. This is going to be a fun conversation with John Locke coming up. We're going to be talking a little bit about non-lethal forms of self-defense, and I think you'll find the conversation fascinating. I know I will. I'll ask some hard questions. A lot of people don't want us to have this conversation, but too bad. We're going to have the conversation. John wrote about it. I don't know that it's controversial. To me, facts aren't controversial. Facts are just facts. Controversy is for the media to decide, right? They determine what they don't like is controversial. What they like isn't. So this is going to be a good conversation. Lots to cover with John. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast will be back. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never leave your cave without your club. See ya at 6 minutes after the hour. Don't go away.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance.
X Insurance.
On the Armed American Radio Network.
Okay, guys, we're going to keep the mics open for you. We take a little break here at the top of the hour. We'll be back at 6 minutes after, and Greg and I will be back to jaw with you in just a few minutes. All right, mics are live still. Carrie Auclair is going to call in at the bottom of this hour. I'll intro Ryan first, then I want to go to her so we can give her some airtime to push the event April 19th up at Lexington and Concord, up at Lexington Green.
Who's
Their
she
ticket
with again?
sales, she's with Goal, Gun Owners Action League.
Oh, okay.
And we'll let her push the event. She is waiting for either a signed letter or a video from Trump. The White House called her the other day. It's big news. So that's cool. And we'll let her push the event, tell people where to go get tickets and all that, because ticket sales close out on the 10th. Patrick in the chat, non-lethal, what about our inherent bloodlust? That's actually a great question, okay? I know you're probably asking that facetiously, but, you know, I can go there with John. This is going to be a fun conversation. You can give John a call at the regular time. What do you usually hit him, about 3 after, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around that.
Okay. All right. This hour's going to fly by, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle down, baby. Buckle down.
We're over to the hour two. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Flying right by. I didn't expect it to go this quick. Let's have us another sugar-free Red Bull and fuel up. What do you say? God, I grilled 4 steakhouse cut prime steaks yesterday. Oh, heavens. I get special seasoning from San Antonio.
All right.
Covered them in some Dales about 4 hours before cooking them with that seasoning. Heaven on earth, baby. Heaven on earth.
Colin John, hang tight. All right, on hold.
10-4. It's going to be a fun conversation here. See the footage of that tornado in Arkansas where you were off last week?
I guess I did not. I've literally not been looking at social media.
Good. Hope you unplugged.
Yeah, it was nice.
I tried Saturday. I did a pretty good job of it. God, I went into a place called Righteous Guitars. I took my dad and I took my daughter to lunch on Saturday, and there's a place called Righteous Guitars right around the corner from her office. Whew. I want everything in there. Problem is, some of the guitars start at $20,000 up. So it's a tad bit out of reach right now.
It's unfortunate, isn't it?
Let's do this, guys.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio
At the Patriot Mobile Communication Center.
on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone.
Mark, we know they want to take our guns, and now we're going to make them eat it.
Proudly presented to you by X Insurance.
X Insurance.
Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Yeah, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 2 underway. If you are rejoining us, welcome back. If you are just joining us, welcome in. Armed American Radio Network Monstercast begins hour 2 right now. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Being heard on hundreds of radio stations here in the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. It's either the Patriot Mobile Ranch or it's AAR Ranch. Today it's from the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center, and of course we're on the Sig Sauer powerful and platinum microphone. X Insurance is bringing it all to you, and you can find all of our great partners that put us on all of these hundreds of radio stations and continuing to grow every single month. We couldn't do it without them, so please support them. And if you're watching on social media, like, share, repost, all that fun stuff. You know what to do. Greg, Dallas, welcome in, brother, at the network.
Yeah, here we are, hour 2.
Let's we're cooking right along. This show is going to fly by tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We just have that universe vibe going on right now, so buckle in. Greg, if you would be kind enough to tell people where to watch us right now, and then I'll tell people where to hit us on Facebook, and you can tell us where to do all the chat and stuff. We'll go to our guest, John Lott.
Yeah, sure. If you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters over on YouTube and Rumble. On X, it's at AAR Mark. The usual suspects are going to be armedamericanradio.oregon.com. On the right-hand side of the website, you'll see the menu icons. Just give that a slap, and when that window opens up, you can select that Watch Live option. If you're driving, hit that Listen Live link. And if you missed any previous episode of this program, just head on over to the podcast link. If you'd like to join our live chat, all you have to do is download the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll bring you in. And don't forget, you can also watch us over on Facebook.com, Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. And I got an interesting message from them the other day saying, we've opened you up more because your content's really good, and we're doing a lot more content. So support us over there, ladies and gentlemen. If you do not already subscribe to the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It's growing like a weed. Help us out over there. That way you never miss an episode of the live national radio broadcast. You can listen to us in your own time, on your own devices, whatever you want to do. Dr. John Lott, crimeresearch.org. Welcome in, my friend. Always a pleasure.
It's great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation, John. I years ago on the show, I think you've
You mean you're not normally looking forward to our conversation?
I'm always looking forward to it. What is it, Greg? Well, here at the ranch, what? He's not as grandiose as I am.
I'm not quite as grandiose as you.
We could have so much fun with John. Yeah, I'm always looking forward to it. But, John, you've heard me say on the program for years, facts are only controversial to liberals who don't like the facts. Controversy, I guess you have to determine, what is controversial, right? And you wrote a great piece. I had been waiting for this to come out, a non-lethal firearm alternative over at the Washington Times. And it's an opinion piece out on Tuesday, April 1st. And you start off with this. So let's just go here. If you listen to conservative radio and podcast hosts such as Megyn Kelly, Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, Dana Lash, Sean Hannity, you've likely repeatedly heard many Byrna advertisements promoting less lethal alternatives to firearms. Glenn Beck, you quote, "If you carry a gun, the problem with it is if you take somebody's life and you're wrong." Beck promotes Byrna pepper and tear gas projectiles, saying if you don't know anything about pepper gas, it is quite effective. It burns and it gets inside of your lungs, making you feel like you just can't breathe. And many other hosts echo Mr. Beck's comments. And you go on to say, Byrna's claims ignore key realities. Now, I want to throw this disclaimer out, John. I've wrestled with this over the years. And you and I have talked about this off air before. I think this is the first time we've had this conversation on air. Let's go into the non-lethal alternatives here, because you take a deep dive into this. Are they a safe alternative to lethal force for those that might not want to carry a gun or maybe have, a moral, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't want lethal force for whatever reason. Let me just leave it at that. Are these a safe alternative, John? What are how do the facts bear us out here?
Right. Well, I mean, the first thing is the misnomer that somehow the choice is between a gun, which is lethal, and these, pepper sprays or whatever, which are non-lethal. And because the vast majority of time that people use guns defensively, simply brandishing a gun is sufficient to cause a criminal to break off an attack. That 95% of the time that people use guns defensively, the attacks ended simply by somebody brandishing the gun. You have well less than 1% of the time is the attackers killed or wounded. And, it's firearms are usually a non-lethal alternative. I did a podcast with owners of Byrna, and this one guy named Brian was saying that he gave an example where he had been involved in a road rage incident. I don't know if he had cut off somebody, but the person had gotten very angry and had basically forced his car over to the side of the road and gotten out. The guy was much younger and much stronger, it looked like, than he was. And he was saying how worried he was, if he had had a gun to be able to go and use at that point. And I say, my guess is if you had simply shown the attacker the gun, there's an extremely high probability that he would have backed off at that point. The other thing is when you listen to these ads, it makes it sound like, these pepper sprays and other things are, they'll incapacitate the attacker for up to 40 minutes. It sounds like a sure thing. And, but that's couldn't be anything further from the truth. There's a National Institute of Justice study looking at police departments that use it. And about 20% of the time, these pepper gas works. And even when I was doing the podcast with these guys, they were kind of conceding that there are lots of problems with using pepper or tear gas. If it's windy, if it's raining, it's going to affect how it can work. If you're inside, if you're in a room or a hallway or something and you hit somebody and it works, you're likely to be affected too. And there are other things that affect it. For example, has the person previously been exposed to tear gas? Because if he has, people can develop some type of resistance, and not everybody is affected in any case in the same way. So you have to keep that 20% number that it worked, according to the National Institute of Justice, about 20% of the time when police officers use it. And so even these guys at Byrna, when I was pushing them on this, they were mentioning, we ourselves use these kinetic rounds. But there are limits to using kinetic rounds. Since they travel much more slowly than a bullet travels, they can be affected by wind and rain to affect the accuracy. But you also have a situation where if somebody's wearing heavy clothing, if they're wearing a leather coat, for example, it's possible that it's not going to have as much of a stinging impact as you would like it to have. And the same thing is true with tasers. Tasers are actually more effective than these other types of devices, but you still, in New York City, for example, where they've been using tasers longer than anybody else, only about a third of the time did tasers actually have the desired impact on the criminal that they were trying to stop. In southern places in the United States, they tend to work more frequently. But one of the big problems is somebody wearing a heavy coat? Are they wearing rubber-soled shoes, for example, that create insulation and prevent them from being grounded? Those types of things can greatly limit the impact or whether it will have an impact on somebody. And so, the way I put it in the piece is Are there police departments that use these Byrna and other types of devices?
Okay,
Sure.
John, hold
But
on to that.
Police
Hold on to that
have
thought.
a backup. They have a gun.
Yeah, hold on to that thought. That's where I want to go in the next segment with you. And we've got 30 seconds, so I want to stop you right there. It's a perfect place because that's where I want to go when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is something I'm not knocking any of this stuff at all. Okay, if this is what you want to carry, that's fine. But you need to understand the limitations that you're facing with this type of form of self-defense. Can it work against you? Cops are carrying these, or some are. Is it the only weapon they have on them? No, it is not. So we're going to take a deeper dive into this when we come back with Dr. John Lott. This is a fascinating topic. Not controversial to me at all. You do what you want to do. The facts that John is referring to bear themselves out. Facts are just facts. People make their own decisions based on what it is they know, and that's why we're here to give you the factual information. We'll be back with John Lott to continue the conversation. Don't go away. Guys, this is interesting stuff for a lot of different reasons, and I don't want it to appear that we're picking on somebody. We're not. We're talking about a particular product, and there are others too, as John was pointing out, tasers, etc. But you have likely heard about these things, and we want you to know maybe some things that you're not getting from ads or something like that. We want you to think about these things. Could you find yourself in a worse off situation if you deploy one of these things and it doesn't have the desired effect and you don't have a backup? That's kind of where we're going to go with John. And I think the answer to that question is, well, cops aren't putting their guns away because they have this type of device. Cops have been carrying OC spray for, forever, along with their guns and tasers. So, but less than lethal force, that's a choice you have to make. I'm not adverse to it at all, and I want my listeners to have an option and a choice, a decision that only you can make. But we want to present you with the facts here. It's not designed to be controversial. It just is because of the way people look at it. Not on this end. We'll be right back with you guys. Camera's on.
This segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Mike Lindell and MyPillow. Don't forget to use the promo code AAR at MyPillow.com. Welcome back.
Yeah, MyPillow.com has been with us for well over a decade, ladies and gentlemen. Support them over there. Great products. I bought the cross necklace, Greg. I love that thing. In fact, I was actually talking to Mike Lindell about that a number of years ago up when we were with Patriot, AM 1280. We love you guys up in Minneapolis, by the way. Miss doing the fair with you guys every year. You ever get a booth back, you know we're going to be there. But, yeah, MyPillow.com, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime you see a deal over there, whatever it is, just toss in the AAR promo code. You'll get that deal. You support them for supporting us, supporting your gun rights. That's the way it works. And you can find all of our partners, including HeavensHarvest.com. HeavensHarvest.com. Also, North American Arms. Make sure to check them out. I carry one of those Sidewinders with me. I've got one on my hip right now. It goes with me every place I go, every single day. It's the gun you can carry when you can't carry a gun. I'll let you figure that out for yourself, whatever that means to you. Maybe it's walking past a sign that's not a crime to do. Maybe it's you don't want your mother-in-law to know you have a gun. These things work. You want to take one to the beach, fits right in your pocket. Nobody knows. It's that simple. NorthAmericanArms.com. Dr. John Lott, welcome back, brother. This is a great conversation. I love this conversation. I'm looking forward to going where we're going to go right now. John, as you know, I had a self-defense incident back in 2002. The mere presence of my firearm stopped the attack from two individuals that were advancing on my automobile. I never had to fire a shot. Now, if I had one of these, and it was the only thing, this is my concern with these, and it's not just this. I'm not picking on Byrne. I'm talking about any non-lethal self-defense tool. But cops have been carrying OC spray forever. Cops have been carrying tasers forever. And they also have a gun on their belt. So if they replace a taser or replace OC spray with one of these, cops have a backup that's lethal. The average citizen is likely not going to carry, and these are basically full-size guns, even if it's a compact that's coming out, and carry their regular firearm as well, if they even have one, John. That's my concern with this. You find yourself in a situation where you deploy this for whatever reason it might not work. You got a guy that's doped up on weed, right, Greg? Doped up on weed, or doped up, intoxicated on methamphetamine, whatever it is, and it fails, John. You could find yourself in a situation you might not have found yourself in previously or might not be able to get out of. That's my concern. Am I wrong thinking that way?
I think you're exactly right. I think they give people a false sense of security with these things, with these ads, because they make it look like, that they're foolproof in stopping people. There's no information that they provide at the, what I think is pretty low rates of success. Now, look, are there times when these types of weapons will be fine? Yeah. Look, for example, dealing with a dangerous animal. A gun isn't going to be useful in brandishing. You show a gun to a dangerous animal, it's not going to say, boy, I better go away. If you're somebody who's prohibited from having a gun in certain places, either because of the laws that you have for concealed carry in places like New York or California, of course, you're not allowed to have pepper spray in some of those areas too. But, or if you're somebody who's prohibited for other reasons, like you're a felon or something like that, they're obviously concerned about their safety too, just like other people are. And, you make it so that they at least can go and have some type of protection there. So there are real benefits that can exist.
Well, and I would also make the suggestion, too, that in many cases, you mentioned the statistic that 95% of the times when a gun is brandished, the attack stops without having to fire a shot. I think we're pretty familiar with those stats. It's also likely, it could be likely in this case, that if one of those were brandished, I don't know that a criminal is going to want to take a chance, right? If it's just drawn.
Oh, they look just like real guns, some of them. So some of them don't, but a lot of them look like real guns that are there. And so, yeah, you could have the same thing. It's just that with a gun, you have a backup. Even some things like 9mm might not stop some big attacker, but these will have even a lower probability of successfully stopping them.
Yeah, and see, one of my concerns would be, this is just me, but I guess I don't know if I found myself in a lethal force encounter. Let's just take the situation that happened to me, and all I had was this, and it didn't stop them. I might as well have had a toy. I mean, obviously I'm going to deploy it. I'm going to use it, but I run the risk of just ticking somebody off, or maybe there's multiple attackers. I don't know, but again, ladies and gentlemen, this is up to you. If you're morally opposed to carrying a lethal form of self-defense, this is an option for you, and it could be a great option for you. I want to swing the pendulum back that way, John, too. I just don't want somebody to get in trouble. I want them to look at all sides of this and weigh this out in their own minds. Could this get me in trouble? I mean, I could say the same thing about Taser. I could say the same thing about an OC spray. The DAD device I was talking about earlier. It goes without saying that it could be true for all of these forms of non-lethal self-defense. We face the same type of obstacles there. But gosh darn it, if I've got a gun, look, the reality, John, is if you know the law, supposedly, if everything is working right, you draw your firearm, you should be in a position to be able to fire that gun if that gun clears its holster. So if in a perfect situation, the gun is the ultimate tool. If it doesn't stop them, you can squeeze that trigger, right? So I'm trying to look at the small sides.
Sure. No, I mean, the issue is having a real backup that's there. Guns may not be able to perfectly stop people all the time, but they're going to have a much higher success rate. And the bottom line is kind of like what we were just saying, that police may carry these so-called non-lethal items, but there's a reason why they have a gun. You're not going to see any of these police officers go out with just these, a Byrna device. And the problem is that I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think the vast majority of civilians are going to carry both,
right?
One of these Byrna guns and a real gun at the same time. When I've talked to people, I think the vast majority of people only have one magazine in their semi-automatic handgun. They don't carry extra magazines there. And I suspect you're going to see very few people that are going to carry multiple weapons that are there. And if you're only going to carry one weapon and you're not in places where you're banned or prohibited from having the weapons, if you are banned or prohibited, then that's a different story. But if you're not, then why not have something that if the brandishing doesn't work, you're going to have a backup there.
Yeah, I would be terrified if what I had didn't work. I'm going to wish, as far as I'm concerned, you might as well have not had anything. It's going to be the same sick feeling in the pit of your stomach. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, this is not a controversial topic. Facts are facts. You take a look at it, you decide what's right for you, regardless of what form of non-lethal self-defense it is. If you can carry both, good for you, if that's what floats your boat. John, would you tell people where they can find you? This was a great article, and ladies and gentlemen, just let me give you the headline real quick. But a non-lethal firearm alternative, self-defense requires certainty, not wishful thinking. And John, I'll just do it now because we're getting ready to close it out. I apologize. But it's crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org. You can support John over there with as little as $5 or whatever you can afford to get all this great information. And everything he writes about, you can find in all of his research at crimeresearch.org. Thank you, John. We'll be back.
All right, so what's the deal with Carrie? Is she doing 2 segments or is she just doing a quick hit?
Carrie is going to do just a quick hit with us. I'll go ahead and go to Ryan first.
Okay.
And guys, by the way, real quick, Greg, before I go back to you, guys, I'm not, like I said, I wasn't picking on anybody here. I just want you guys to know the facts, okay? And you make a decision. I know what works for me, but what works for me might not work for everybody else, okay? They're out there in a lot of different forms. But John's article is a damn good one, and I would highly recommend the read. Again, real quick, it's a non-lethal firearm alternative. Self-defense requires certainty, not wishful thinking. Yeah, Greg, we'll go to Carrie. I'll go to Ryan first, intro him because we've got him for the half hour and then the round table. And then we'll bring Carrie in. I want her to push the April 19th event up at Lexington Green. Because, as I said, ticket sales are waning. I think they close out on the 10th. I'll let her give us the actual date, but I'm pretty sure it's the 10th. And then I'm going to bring her back again on Tuesday for a few minutes to let her push the event as well. She's got a lot going on up there, and I want to see it turn out big for her.
No Ryan yet.
Okay. Yeah, he'll be dialing in on his new deal. So he'll sound great when he comes in. I'll just ask him if he's awake real quick because he's had a long day. I'm going to assume he's going to be coming in on his mic, not his Opal phone at this point. Dialing in 1 minute, so he'll be coming in. That's interesting. He didn't come in on a browser. He came in on a browser on his phone using the Opal from Vegas the other day, right?
You know, to be honest with you, I'm not doing very well at keeping up at what the hell is going on that end.
He did, which was impressive. By the way, that sounded really strong. He was on a speaker too. God, this rain all day has been a godsend for getting rid of this pollen around here. It's been brutal.
I don't suffer from pollen issues, so.
Even if you don't, it gets my eyes, it gets my sinuses, throat. Even if you don't, just the cars, man.
Yeah.
I mean, keeping them clean. My daughter's lucky. She's got a white car. You can't really see it. But the Lexus SUV is a dark gray. The Honda's a mid-gray. The Vet's metallic silver. The truck and the Kia, my son and daughter's doesn't really impact it that much. It's hard to see it, but stuff's everywhere. And with the top down on the Vet, you don't even realize it until you get in and you see the dash. You know, if you leave the top up when you go to the grocery store or something, it's pretty shitty. All right. Do I need to make a change on his too? No, I do not. Yes, I do.
The 15. Still no Ryan.
Okay.
Looks like you're going to Carrie first.
Yeah. He'll come in. He just hit me, so.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Well, let me get my mic on. Freedom, passion, and precision. That is Daniel Defense, ladies and gentlemen. I've been to that place, the plant down there, and you smell the freedom as soon as you get up near that front door of that huge plant. It's wonderful. Make sure to check it out. DanielDefense.com, DanielDefense.com. And you can check out the H9, and there's also another variant over there. You'll see it all on the website. And another promotion getting ready to happen. In fact, I think it's underway, and I apologize for not having the information, but I wanted to make sure it's right, so I'll check on it tomorrow when I talk to the guys at Daniel Defense and make sure that's good to rock and roll. I don't want to give you bad information today. But here's how you can find out without hearing it from me. It's real simple. Just visit DanielDefense.com, DanielDefense.com. Don't forget Sig Sauer, and I would definitely recommend you get on their list because the shop stuff that they send you from Sig is unbelievable. And I'll bend down and show you this right here because I've got one of the LifePod safes here from Sig, and this thing is the real deal. And it's got the lock mechanism on it. It's absolutely phenomenal. That's the LifePod from Sig Sauer. You can check out everything they've got at sigsauer.com and get on that list. So as we wait for Ryan Petty to dial in on his new equipment, and he is working on that right now, I can see that, we'll go over to Carrie Ann Eclair from Goal, Gun Owner Action League up in Massachusetts. Carrie, how you doing? I love you. How are you today?
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
It's always a
How
pleasure.
you doing?
How you doing, Massachusetts girl? How you doing, Massachusetts girl? All right.
I'm good.
So big day coming up for you on April 19th. Shot heard around the world, 250th anniversary. And of course, that's right up there in your neck of the woods up in Massachusetts at Lexington and Lexington Green and Concord. Tell us what you have going on and how little time people have to get tickets to go up there and see you, Cam Edwards, Alan West will be there, and many others. What's the deal? Give it to us. Give us the lowdown.
Awesome. Yes, so we have some amazing guests: Jared Yanis, Doug Hamlin, Cam Edwards, Dick Heller, Toby Leary, Colonel Alan West, and Adam Kraut. So we have some amazing individuals coming down here to celebrate the 250th anniversary in Lexington and with Gold, Gun Owners Action League. So yes, if you want to get a ticket, you need to do it now because tickets are ending on the 10th.
Ooh, I was right.
Excuse me, the 11th. Yep.
I was wrong.
So go to goal.org/250 dinner and get your ticket now.
Yeah, Ron.
Before you can't. But you can always go to the Battle Green and celebrate with us. So,
now I've been there, and I was up there a couple years ago. One summer, I guess, with my kids at SIG. Oh man, what a beautiful place! As much as I hate to say what I'm going to say to you, Massachusetts law over the years, they have completely lost their right, as far as I'm concerned, to be in possession of that hallowed ground. They have ignored the U.S. Constitution. And to think, and it's such a beautiful place to go see. The history is incredible. I hate where it sits now because of what the state has done to the rights, not just to gun rights, but to all of our rights. The Bill of Rights, it irks me so bad. However, it is there, and you need to go if you've never been, ladies and gentlemen. If you can get there, trust me when I tell you, it's the real deal. So before I have to let you go, it's goal.org/250 dinner. Is that the number 250 or is it spelled out?
Yep. 250 dinner.
250 dinner. And they people can get tickets there, and the ticket sales close out on when? Refresh me, the 11th, right?
The 11th. Yes, unfortunately the 11th. So thank you so much, and let's celebrate together the freedoms.
Yeah. The first act of gun control, we said no, as Dave Workman said on the show last week. They tried gun control, and we shot them for it. And, well, it didn't turn out too well for the British. Quick question, how much are the tickets? I know people are going to want to know.
So there's different tickets. There's different sales, but if you want to get the general admission, it's $125.
Okay.
But if you want to get a seat with one of our speakers, it's a little more. If you want to get a sponsor table, it's a little more as well.
Okay, but all those options are there.
Go to the website. Yep, absolutely.
All right, Carrie-Anna Claire from Gold.
Hope to see you there. Celebrate.
Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
We appreciate it so much, and we'll talk with you again on Tuesday and get the word out again. All right, Carrie, thank you. All right,
awesome.
Let's go
Thank
over
you.
to sure thing. Let's go over to Ryan Petty. We've got Ryan on board now. Ryan, how the heck are you, brother?
Good evening, Mark. It's great to be with you.
You are with me. It sounds like are you in the room with me? I love that. Welcome in. The technology.
They're inside the house.
They're
inside the house.
Ryan Petty is truly inside the house. Good heavens, Ryan. Okay, so welcome. Official welcome to you for your first day as a now permanent member of the Classic Armed American Roundtable. You join a select group of individuals in the Classic Armed American Radio Roundtable, and I know I speak for all of our listeners. I've seen some great comments. Welcome in, and I can hear them welcoming you right now. You ready to get this kicked off today? This is going to be fun.
This is exciting for me, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to join. You and I have, we met. I'm trying to think. It was a 2019 SHOT Show. I think it was when I first met you.
But I think that sounds like about right. Yeah.
Or 2020, one of those years. And I've appreciated the opportunity to talk about what happened in Parkland, talk about why I don't think gun control is a solution. And this, being a part of this regular broadcast on Sunday is just a great opportunity for me, and I really appreciate being here.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Just tonight alone, I know what kind of day you've had. Ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned earlier that Ryan was sitting on the tarmac in Tampa, Florida at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time this morning. Not after departing for anywhere, but actually after arriving from Vegas. So I have to ask you, what time did you get out of there Vegas time? Because you've had a long day.
Yeah, it's been quite a week. Couple of different cities, Mark. Traveling, working on school safety issues. Good news is, as you and I have talked, there are lots of solutions and potential opportunities to protect our schools and our other critical infrastructure in the country. None of it requires gun control. That's the great news.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, let's talk a little bit about those school safety issues. When you're out and about, because you travel a lot on this topic all over the country, what do you talk about? Who are you talking to? Are you talking to? I want listeners to hear this. I know the answers to these questions, but I want you to hear this, listeners, because Ryan is deeply embedded in this for obvious reasons. Okay, but I mean, you talk to everybody, but who's the vast majority of your audience when you are out and about across the country having these discussions?
Well, this week we talked to two different audiences. So out in Vegas, we talked to security integrators and security manufacturers, talking through. I've been working with a company, a startup that is bringing a really revolutionary solution to this space. We were out demonstrating the product, showing it off to other security companies, and really just got the company I'm repping and working with won Best New Product at a show called ISC West, which is International Security Conference, which is really great. Glad to see that happening. And then the audience for the other the other half of the week, Mark, was school boards from across the country, talking to school boards about school safety. So I was up with one of the customers of this company. They're out of New York, a school district on Long Island called Plain Edge School District, and their goal is to build the world's safest schools. And so we were up talking about that and what they're doing. Very, very exciting. We had a packed audience in this room for the presentation that we did. Phenomenal response. Everybody came up and said, wow, you opened our eyes. Now we understand how important it is to make sure school safety is top priority in our districts. And it was really, really heartwarming to me to see the response.
All right, when we come back from the break, I have a very pointed question for you about school districts, because you don't always run into a friendly school district. And I want to know how that's handled. I want to know if you get any pushback, and if so, what kind of pushback, and how you respond in kind. And for that matter, how they respond to you, knowing your personal situation. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast. We'll be back with Ryan right after this. Okay, wow, that's interesting stuff.
Gonna refill my water, BRB.
10-4. Guys, I am dying to pick up this guitar behind me. Good heavens. Any of you play, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get that itch, man. You got to scratch it loudly. And I have a gorgeous SG sitting right across the room from me, too. Whew. One of these days I'll do that. One of these days I'll grow wild hair and won't give a crap about the copyrights. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. I do give a crap about copyright. I survive on copyrights as well, so. I can't say that. Of course, I can always play my own improvisation, but you know what happens even when you do that? They tell you it's copyright. Then you risk getting the video down. Don't need any strikes when we're trying to rebuild.
All right.
All right. That pollen's been wreaking havoc on me for the last 3 weeks. I'm surprised the creek down by the holler didn't blow out today with all the rain we've had. Of course, I'm not going to complain. They're getting catastrophic rainfall north of me, so people.
You
dying.
could get record-breaking snow.
Yeah, well, I don't live in Amarillo, so no. We did get close to 90 degrees the other day. I think that broke a record. I don't live in Atlanta, but I guess Atlanta broke a record the other day. Woohoo. Bet Stacey Abrams was uncomfortable in the heat.
$30.
All right, camera's coming back.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back indeed. Car Firearms Group Studios fired up for you on a Sunday. We're starting off your week the right way here on Armed American Radio's Monster Cast. You are on the Armed American Radio Network. Welcome again to all of our affiliates. If you're just joining us, welcome in. If you're coming back with us, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Always a fun time on Sundays now. 16 years into this show. April 26th, in 20 days, marks our 16th year on the nation's airwaves here on 6 Hour Microphone. All of it being brought to you by X Insurance. We've got some great partners. You can find them all that make it all possible at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. We've got a couple new partners coming in with us. When I'm ready to make that announcement, we will, and you will be the first to know about it. I can promise you that. X Insurance presenting it all. Ryan Petty, welcome back in, my friend. Sound like you're sitting in the room with me. I love it. So, Ryan, question, just pointed question for you. Let's face it, school boards are not always friendly to this, okay? Do you get pushback from any of the members, or are the members that show up in favor of this, that's why they're there? Are you talking to the entire board, including those members that are elected, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that might not like this? Do they push back on you?
Oh, absolutely, Mark. In fact, you know, I would say most school board members don't want to think about security or don't want the security and safety of schools, your children, you know, your spouse that may be a teacher or an educator at that facility. They don't want to be responsible for that, right? They really, what I find a lot of school board members want to do, it's ceremonial, right? They want to be there for the photo ops and for the dinners at the Chamber of Commerce and the schmoozing that goes on. That's what they want it for. You know, a lot of them even have charitable organizations that they set up and they get donations into their charitable organizations, you know, kind of like the scam in DC. It's sort of all levels of government. You see this kind of, you know, grifting and I call it corruption, right? It's just plain corruption. And so for a lot of them, when I talk to them and share my experiences and talk about Elena and what happened to her, it hits them hard. And I've had a number of them come up and, in tears, right? At the end of the presentation to say, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I realize this is my responsibility. I'm going to go back and take action. The excuses then typically follow, right? There's that moment where they realize that it's their responsibility. They need to do something. Then they realize they're one of 5, one of 7, one of 9, right?
Mhm.
And they can't get their other board members to pay attention to this. So the other part of the work that I've been doing, and I'll be speaking in Florida in early May, and then up in Wisconsin the next day in early May, I'll be talking to school boards up there. The good news is we've been electing more and more conservative members of school boards. A lot of these races are nonpartisan, as you know, Mark, but we need conservative people. We need people like your listeners to be willing to run for school board. We've got to break this cycle where it's just this closed system of only education people, and they think only educators are qualified to be school board members. And we have to have regular folks. We need folks that can read budgets. We need folks that understand law enforcement. We need folks that can break down those barriers between school boards and law enforcement. Because I'll tell you that the other topic that I will be speaking on up in Wisconsin is this topic of restorative justice. And liberal leftist ideologies have permeated the education schools across the country, and it is the de facto language of our educators across the country. I don't care if you're in a red state or a blue state, your kids are being indoctrinated by teachers that have grown up in a Marxist, or have been educated in a Marxist system, and a system that believes that there is, systemic racism. And so they put in things like you and I have talked about, restorative justice, these policies that I think most parents find abhorrent. And the problem is they lead to tragedies like Parkland. They lead to gang violence in our schools. They lead to other problems. And then the left, what do they do every time, Mark? They call for gun control after something happens. So this is the reason I've got to do the work at both ends. I've got to talk about it and say gun control is not the solution to this. And that piques their interest. And they say, oh, okay, that's interesting. Tell me why. Well, here's the real problem, right? The real problem are the policies you've put in place that allow kids to be violent in your schools. And you've got to take ownership and responsibility for it, because that's your responsibility. That's what we elected you to do. And we got to hold them accountable.
There's no clearer case, than Parkland, than that restorative justice. Not that I can think of anyway. I mean, I guess you could say in any of those instances, you could point to that to a certain extent. But that played a major role in Parkland. And, I guess when you say it's not these are nonpartisan, I don't know. People are partisan, regardless of whether or not it's partisan. Or I guess you know where I'm going with this. Kind of hard to articulate that. You can't take somebody's views out of them, right? Nonpartisan race, but they're going to vote certain ways on that board, Ryan. And they're going to vote in a partisan way. And that's frustrating. It's like judges, right? Judges should put everything aside, but they can't. They're human beings. We get that. And in school boards, man, this is critical stuff, guys. Critical stuff. People are getting killed because of this nonsense like restorative justice.
Yeah, the biggest fallacy, Mark, that the left has perpetrated on voters across the nation. They got a lot of these school boards, and even the judges, to your point, are elected in these quote unquote nonpartisan elections, but they're quite partisan. The school boards are predominantly leftist, liberal to leftist members, and they're the ones making decisions about the future of education in our kids. And what's happened is we've turned a lot of our public schools into factories of indoctrination, and we have worked hard in the state of Florida. I can speak to Florida, what we've tried to do here to stop that. I give Governor DeSantis and the legislature a lot of credit for the work that they did to root that out. And the next step, in my view, is we've got to root it out of our schools of education and our colleges and universities, because that's where the indoctrination is happening for the
that's
teachers.
an uphill climb, brother. That's an uphill climb, bro.
And That's tough to do because everybody we love our universities, right? You know, you go team, right? And so that's a difficult task, but we've got to break the stranglehold the left has on our public education system. And until we do that, we're going to continue to indoctrinate children, and we're going to continue to have policies that put everyone at risk. And you know, to your point, these elections, they may say nonpartisan. You know, in my view, the nonpartisan thing is really to keep conservatives home because you think, oh, it's nonpartisan, no big deal. I don't need to vote in this election. Folks, your local elections are the most important elections. They have the most impact on your life. And if you don't believe me, I've got pictures of my daughter to share with you.
I tell you, man, unbelievable. We're going to call it quits on this hour right now. Ryan Petty's going to stick with us. Ryan, we welcome you to your first official Classic AAR Roundtable as a regular member of the crew, replacing it. Big shoes to fill, but you can do it. I know you can. And that's Neil McCabe. We'll get some great analysis from Ryan, and we'll be back at 6 minutes after the hour with Brad Primo, CEO of Lead Slingers, of course, Ryan Petty, and Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Everybody's checked in. Everybody's going to be here. Conversation will be great. And I'm going to go back to non-lethal self-defense with these guys and get their ideas on this. I thought that was a fascinating conversation with John. We're going to have it with everybody at the table, along with some other really fun stuff as well. So as I often close out hours for you on Armed American Radio over all these years, carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. Whatever club that is you choose that works for you. No self-respecting caveman would have ever been caught without their club. We'll be back with Ryan, Brad, and Justin right after this, 6 minutes after the hour. Okay, guys, love having Ryan on the show. He's always a great addition to the program, but now that it's official, it's good. It's a whole new day. But he joins some great company. You know, the original roundtable was George Hill, myself, and David Codria. Neil McCabe jumped in after that. And as far as regulars go, Brad and Justin, and now Ryan. That's been the roundtable crew. Greg, I don't think there's been, am I missing somebody that's been, I mean, we've had stand-in guests, Russell Stewart, for example. We've had a number of folks jump in the roundtable with us, but as far as regular crew, I think that's the makeup. But I can't think of anybody else.
Yeah, no, it's been those three.
Yeah, we're going to get David Codria back on the show coming up this week. Always great insight from him. And we have some Washington folks going to be coming in with us. A couple big names. Still working on Todd Pyro from Fox. They're just looking for a schedule to get him in. He's got those hell hours, bro. You know, he's Todd Pyro, Fox and Friends First.
Oh,
he's the one that opens up. Him and Carly over on Fox and Friends First open up before Fox and Friends, which is early. That starts, I think, at 6 o'clock. But it's funny because Todd and I have played cat and mouse with each other for a long time. We're both on 97.1 FM with Mark Cox on Tuesdays. And this past Tuesday, I hate it. As a talk radio host myself, well, Greg, you know how it is. Guests forget to call, or when we call, they might not pick up. So there's a lot of reasons for that. My wife was heading to the office on Tuesday, and I was on 97.1 FM. And I knew I was on. I didn't forget anything. And she went running out to the car. She comes running back in. She goes, "My tire's nearly flat. I need to up it." And that wasn't because anything was wrong with the tire. It was just down a little bit. But I had to throw a compressor on it real quick. And that thing was running. I lost track of time. The whole time, Carl over at 97.1 FM was calling me in my pocket. And I missed the call because of the sound of the compressor. By the time I realized what time it was and called him back, it was too late because they were already 10 minutes into their segment. So as a host myself, I hate when that happens. But that's all right. I went on with Bo Matthews and Mark a couple days later on Thursday, and I'll be rejoining them again on Tuesday this week. Also, I think I mentioned this before, but I'll be on Cam and Company with the great Cam Edwards tomorrow. We'll be taping that up at 10:30. Always fun to talk to Cam Edwards. He is the real deal, and I'm very honored and proud to call him a great friend. And guys, in the very near future, I'm going to have a very special guest on. And we've been putting it off for a long time, but we'll give you a couple week notice on this. But I have a feeling we'll have some of our biggest listenership ever when we do this. And I won't, that's all I'm going to say right now, but it's been in the plans for a long time. It's just a matter of getting the dates down, getting off our duffs and getting it done. All right, guys, in the business, we refer to this as a biology break. We'll be back.
Gang's all here. Gang's all here.
Roger that.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio
At the Patriot Mobile Communication Center.
on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone.
Mark, we know they want to take our guns, and now we're going to make them eat it.
Proudly presented to you by X Insurance.
X Insurance.
Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Hour 3, Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now. If you are rejoining us, welcome back in. If you are just joining us, welcome to the Car Firearms Group Studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. And on this broadcast, in front of this powerful Sig Sauer microphone, being heard on hundreds of radio stations, talk radio stations, AM, FM stations around the country. I've lost count how many digitals are out there as well. I think a couple hundred of those in addition. Great to be here with you. 16 years on air. It's all being brought to you by X Insurance, and we're here at the Patriot Mobile Communication Command Center. Greg in Dallas, Texas. Welcome in, my brother.
Here we are, hour 3. Zoom, zoom.
Zoom, zoom, man. It's going to fly by. So buckle down, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle down. I got a guitar strap here. I'll put it on and buckle myself to my seat because it is going to fly right by. Greg, would you be kind enough to tell people where to watch the program and all that fun stuff? We'll get started with the crew.
Sure. If you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters on YouTube and Rumble over at X. It's at AAR Mark. The usual suspects on Sunday is going to be armedamericanradio.org and .com. On the right-hand side of that website, you'll see the menu icon. Just give that a click, and when that window opens up, you can select that Watch Live option. If you're driving, hit that Listen Live link, and if you missed any previous episode of this program, just head on over to the podcast link. If you'd like to join our live chat, just head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Do that. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Armed American Radio. And guys, don't be a weenie. If you're out on X, repost the stuff. Help us as we continue to grow. We want to take back our social media. It's all about our rights and our freedoms, man. They blackballed us for the longest time. They're opening us up again. Let's take advantage of it. We need your help to do that. So like and share the post. If you haven't yet, follow me on Twitter at AAR Mark. Would appreciate that. Getting close to 14,000 over there. Used to be far higher. But what did they do? Knocked us down. Didn't like what we were talking about. YouTube.com/Armed American Radio, as you heard Greg said. Rumble, all that fun stuff. Help us take that back. It's in our infancy, and we're just going to blow it the hell up because that's what we do. Let's go to the crew. Let's start with Brad Primo, CEO, Lead Slingers Whiskey. Brad, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Mark. How about you?
I'm doing good, but I got a question for you. Weather up there in your neck of the woods, you guys have been being pounded. Are you in the middle of all that? You guys doing okay up there? We're looking out for you?
Yeah, we're fine. Holding our own. It's been pretty wet, and the river behind my house is probably going to hit close to flood stage, but we are kind of on high ground, so not real worried about it. I just hate being rained on all the time.
Yeah, there's that. The only, like we've been getting down here just for the day, but all day today. But it's for us down here, it hasn't been a flood issue. It's been more of thank God and get rid of the pollen. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me, man.
Always a pleasure. We're going to have an interesting conversation with you guys today on the controversial topic of non-lethal stuff. I can't wait to get your guys' take on this. And Ryan Petty, his first official member of the group. Welcome in, brother. You are it. Welcome. I say welcome back because you were in the previous segment. We kind of gave you a formal intro, but this is really the real deal. You're at the seat now, brother. You ain't going nowhere, bro. You got to schedule your life around this now.
I absolutely do. It's a pleasure to be here with this group, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Guys, it's a pleasure, brother. Guys, I want to start. I had a conversation with John Lott earlier, and this has been, to me, a fascinating topic that I have wrestled with over the years. And Justin, you as a CEO of Car Arms, I can't wait to get your take on this. But John actually wrote a piece that a lot of people didn't want him to write. I say a lot of people. I don't know who specifically. Well, I know there's a lot of people that don't like to talk about this stuff. And this is Armed American Radio. We talk about lethal self-defense. We talk about carrying firearms, what we do. But John wrote a piece at the Washington Times called A Non-Lethal Firearm Alternative, ? Self-defense requires certainty, not wishful thinking. And he went on and he talked about, and I'll just read this opening and then I'll let you guys take it from there. If you listen to conservative radio and podcast hosts such as Megyn Kelly, Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, Dana Lash, and Sean Hannity, you've likely repeatedly heard many Byrna advertisements promoting less lethal alternatives to firearms. If you carry a gun, this is what Glenn Beck said that John quoted, if you carry a gun, the problem with it is if you take somebody's life and you're wrong. Okay. Brad, let me start with you. I have wrestled with this topic for a long time. This is Armed American Radio. And John points out very articulately, if you use a non-lethal form, I don't want to pick on Byrna. This is just the one that he was talking about because he was on a podcast with the guys. But Brad, if you're carrying a non-lethal self-defense tool and it's all you have and it doesn't work, dude, that could be your worst nightmare come true, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's something you have to think about. When you kind of, because what we need to be doing, anybody needs to be doing out there is visualizing self-defense situations, because when you visualize these things, you kind of have a plan. It cuts your reaction time down. It keeps you from getting overwhelmed by the situation as quickly. In that visualization and planning, you have to consider, less lethal options, how you're going to react, that sort of thing. And, less lethal, you got to know when to use it, and it's very, very limited. I would say that it, honestly, in my opinion, if you're in a situation where you feel like you need to hurt somebody, then it better be worth killing them over, and it better be justified. So,
that's a great
less
point.
lethal. Yeah, I mean, because those situations will go from less lethal to lethal in a heartbeat. And so, if you find yourself in a situation where you might need to use less lethal, you're probably going to be in a lethal situation pretty quickly. You either need to run or be ready to fight.
Yeah. Now, Justin, let me go to you, CEO of Car Arms. Okay. Look, cops, as John points out in his piece over at Washington Times, cops carry non-lethal. The cops have been carrying non-lethal tools, OC spray, whether it's, a taser, the Crimson Trace stuff, which is all great stuff. And I don't belittle any of that. But they also carry guns for a reason. They don't go out into the field on their jobs with just a form of non-lethal self-defense, and they don't for a reason. Is this stuff effective? What's your recommendation here? Because my deal is not to be controversial. It's to give people options. I want people to be able to make up their own minds. But, I pulled a gun on two people. All right? Thank God it did its job. But if it were non-lethal and they weren't buying it, or it didn't do the job and I had to use it and deploy it, that could have been a really bad situation. As the CEO of Car Arms, who a lot of cops carry your guns, how do you respond to something like this? What's your take here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a lot of scenarios where less lethal would be useful for somebody who's in a self-defense situation. I mean, there are possible scenarios for a non-law enforcement officer where you may have some use of less lethal, Byrna type of, high impact projectile, device. Let's say you're in your house and the guy's just breaking your windows but not coming in, or vandalizing your house, and you don't want to shoot him, but maybe you just want to get him to move away. I mean, that might be a situation where you wouldn't go to jail for shooting with a less lethal device if he's destroying your property.
Well, Justin, go ahead. Other than that, what?
I don't see a use for the less lethal device. I mean, if he breaks your window and comes into your house, and you have the right to shoot him with a firearm.
Yeah, you got somebody in your house. I'm not shooting a pepper ball at him, okay?
Right.
I'm not shooting a beanbag at him. I'm going to put one in his chest. I don't want him to hurt my family or me or my dog. All right? Better him than me. You come in my house, it's a done deal. All right? Given the opportunity. But you brought up a great point. I caught this when you said for the non-law enforcement officer. And I think what's important to point out, Ryan, I'll go to you on this. Law enforcement officers face a lot, investigations. They get put on desk duty. pay until everything is worked out. That's their job, okay? And now we've got this whole hassle with this defund the cop garbage, and hopefully that's all coming to a close. I think it is. There's been movement in that direction in most, even big blue cities. But nonetheless, law enforcement is going to face a lot of scrutiny for a shooting like that, where you, on the other hand, on the street, I want your take on this. The division between law enforcement and civilian. Look, if you're going to defend your life, you're going to defend your life. I don't care if you're wearing a uniform or not wearing a uniform. I think this is a fascinating conversation, but I want to be fair about it. Ryan, your thoughts on this? Ryan, still got you?
I don't know where he's at.
Do we have Ryan?
He's probably muted. Going to break anyways.
We're going to a break. We'll get Ryan when we come back. That was perfect timing, albeit a fluke, but it was perfect timing. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan was asleep, and I certainly wouldn't blame him, but I know he's here. Armed American Radio's Monstercast will continue. We'll go back to Ryan Petty on that question, and then we're going to carry it on. We've got a number of other issues to talk about with the crew. We'll be right back, guys.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Yeah, I know Mike Gallagher supports the Second Amendment. Had many conversations with Mr. Gallagher about that. Make sure to check him out from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern and 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Time, Salem Radio Network. Mike Gallagher Show. He's great. You can watch him, listen to him, all that fun stuff. Thanks, Mike, for the rejoin. Appreciate it. Back in the Car Firearms Group studios with you, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day on hundreds and hundreds of radio stations around the nation. Great to be with you, as always, from the Patriot Mobile Ranch and in front of this 6-hour mic with you. Please go out of your way to visit all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com, including Crossbreed Holsters. Crossbreed Holsters has been a partner of ours, I think, since 2010 or 11. They've been with us for a long time. I carry virtually every one of my guns in some form of Crossbreed holster. You can do the same thing, crossbreedholsters.com, crossbreedholsters.com. Welcome back. Ryan Petty, let me go back to you. We had some connection issues with you, but we got you back. We were talking about the non-lethal self-defense, and Justin made a great point when he said non-law enforcement officers. You know, as we were talking about with John Lott, law enforcement carries backup in the form of a gun. And they have a couple forms of non-lethal self-defense, whether it's OC spray, a Byrna, whether it's the taser, etc. But does a civilian need that? Does a civilian, because a civilian is not going to go, go in front of it. Well, I can't say that in his way as a cop. Are they going to be investigated? Yes, they're going to be investigated. But does a civilian really need to go through all three of those in a life and death situation in a parking lot? Ooh, let me try to deploy this. That didn't work. Let me go to my gun. It's over in a split second, Ryan.
Mark, these things happen so quickly. And, law enforcement trains day in and day out for these kinds of scenarios. And I know all the statistics. John's talked about this before, about police shootings, but these things happen so quickly, and you're making a decision about whether or not you're in threat for life or great bodily injury. You don't have time to remember which side is less lethal, which side is lethal, unless you're doing all that training like law enforcement. And the second point I'll make is when you look at how law enforcement uses less lethal, in these situations, they're lethal until there's another officer there that can go less lethal, and they still have somebody with lethal pointing at that individual. So in the case that, and as Lott mentions, 40% of the time these things don't work, in the case that it doesn't work, they can go to lethal quickly. I don't think we as civilians train for it. I don't think we have time to process what's going on in these, I think Brad mentioned that these things they can go from yelling at each other or road rage to people pointing guns at each other really quickly. I don't think you have time to fiddle around with less lethal and lethal. That's just my view.
Brad, I don't want to have to make that decision on the fly. I found myself in a self-defense situation in 2002 when I drew a firearm at two people advancing on another vehicle and then changed their tune and started moving towards me. When I look back on that, particularly as we have this conversation, I don't want to think in my mind, is this a non-lethal encounter? Should I pull this or should I go to guns? I don't want to think that way. I'm going to my gun. Now, that's just me, okay? I also have no moral problem taking somebody out that's trying to take my life, or somebody that's close to me, or even a neighbor or whoever it may be that's innocent. I have no problem with that whatsoever. None. I'm not going to lose a wink of sleep over that. I came this far from squeezing a trigger, and would have if they had advanced one more step. They did not. But other people have problems with that. I get that. So maybe this is a good tool. I'm just saying, Brad.
Yeah, the other thing that I point out, is that, law enforcement, they use non-lethal to get compliance, not necessarily self-defense. I remember, when I was still a police officer, if I had somebody that was obviously not going to comply and they were going to make me do things the hard way, they got a face full of pepper spray. That wasn't me trying to protect myself. That was me doing something to them to force them to comply with what I was telling them to do.
Right.
That is not something that a citizen is really going to encounter. I mean, I would hope you're not really trying to enforce compliance on somebody when you can easily just break contact and leave. So for a citizen, you need to be avoiding conflict when you can. And then when you can't avoid conflict, you are now in a situation where you must defend yourself, and that's when it's okay to use lethal force. So, some people, they carry pepper spray in a keychain, whatever it is. I mean, that's fine, I guess. But, ultimately, you need to be having a firearm with you if you're going to be, engaging in self-defense and want to protect yourself and your loved ones.
Yeah, Justin, my advice to people is become familiar with firearms, right? What I don't want to see is somebody get themselves hurt because they tried to deploy a non-lethal method of self-defense and all it did was piss somebody off. All right, you get somebody that's jacked up. You get somebody, I always joke around, but we were joking before, I said doped up on weed, okay, whatever. But you get somebody that's tweaking, that's robbing because they're an addict. They're determined to take your stuff, all right? I just don't want to see somebody get hurt because they made a wrong decision. And my recommendation would be get over it and become familiar with a firearm, period. I don't think that's bad advice, but that's just me, Justin.
Well, Mark, there are plenty of instances where, an assailant has a mortal wound and is shot by a firearm, but still comes and is able to reach the person shooting themselves with a firearm and do harm to them. So, I mean, what do you think is going to happen with a non-lethal, just a pepper ball kind of device?
Well, imagine my mind goes to the scenario of because criminals look for vulnerable targets, right? A mom coming out of a grocery store with two small kids with their feet dangling out of a grocery cart, maybe at night, all right, or very early in the morning. This is a vulnerable target, somebody that's not paying attention. And criminals don't care what the kids see. They don't care. They want what they want. End of discussion. Evil is real. And I don't want to throw a pepper ball down there. I don't want to throw a taser at somebody and hope it penetrates a jacket or whatever it may be. Okay? No. I want my kids to go home with me. I want to go home for my kids. And to me, ladies and gentlemen, that's a firearm. This is Armed American Radio. So obviously we're a little biased. Ryan, I'm going to change the subject, and I want to move over to Cory Booker with you guys because this was just so beautiful. They just handed me a show, and they handed us a discussion. But as you guys are probably well aware, and I think we'll probably take this to the break, but if we can get it in, Ryan. If not, we'll come back to you as soon as the break is over. But Cory Booker, rabid anti-gunner from Jersey, who just literally hates your right to bear arms. In fact, if you're a conservative, he hates you, period. It's pretty much that simple. Anything about you, he can't stand. And if he tells you otherwise, he's lying through his teeth to you. But this clown skirted security with one of his security details, security at the Capitol, with a member of his security detail who he knew damn good and well had a firearm and was violating Washington, D.C. and Capitol Hill law, who was subsequently arrested when they caught him with a firearm. And I talked a little bit about that with Alan Gottlieb earlier. It's just so hypocritical. These people are just rabidly anti-gun. So much of the okay for me, not for thee. Ryan, we'll come back and talk to you about that. Then we'll go around the table with that. Let everybody have a good shot at Cory Booker. Well, because he deserves it, because he's a loser. We'll be right back. Let's see here. I'm going to jump over to the chat here, guys. See what's going on over there. Chewie, I am a descendant of wolves. I love that. Guys, she is back to her normal self again. Eating the right food, eyes all fixed. Plays like a little puppy, man. It's about time. We come back. I'm going to read comment from Mike Barnes and from Mickey. Both of those are great. The Mike Tyson quote and Mickey's conversation about the pepper gel being choice when you absolutely can't be armed with lethal self-defense. Both of those are great. I do want to mention those before we go back to Booker. Good points, guys. Thanks for bringing it up. I'm taking that back to Ryan, right? Pretty sure? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, camera's up.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Patriot Mobile is the real deal. patriotmobile.com/AAR. And it's not free activation. I promise we'll change that this week for you. It is a free month. A free month. A free month, not free activation. So get me off my duff. Greg will remind me about that tomorrow, and we'll change that for you. We appreciate you being here. Welcome back inside the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters in front of the Sig Sauer mic. It's all being brought to you by X Insurance. And, of course, we're at the Patriot Mobile Command Center now. Make sure to check out all of our partners, please. Patriots Relief is another great one. I used that stuff just this morning on a wrist. Yeah, wrist, elbow, knees, whatever. Being a talk radio host is tough on your joints, guys. It's pretty much that simple. Ryan Petty will figure that out real soon. Hey, Ryan, all you guys, welcome back in. Ryan, before I go back to you on that Cory Booker thing, there's a couple great quotes in here from the chat. I want to point one out from Mike Barnes. We're talking about non-lethal self-defense versus lethal. Mike points out, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson, great point. And Mickey Hardy makes this great point. This is why we throw these options at you guys. Pepper gel is my choice when I absolutely must go unarmed into a property, and must is capitalized, that if caught with a firearm, I would automatically become a felon. The stream is more accurate at further distances, less vulnerable to wind. It is much harder to wipe off, and it has a stain agent that has to wear off over time. Wally World sells it in their automotive department for about $13. So there you go. So it's a personal choice, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much that. I'll leave it at that. Ryan, let's go over to Cory Booker. This guy's a clown. I mean, I think he gets up and puts clown shoes on in the morning. This guy's just an idiot. The fact that anybody takes him serious, it's hard for me to imagine the guy keeps getting elected, but he does. There's that. But Ryan, this guy had head of his security detail. He walked him around security at the Capitol. He knew the guy was armed. He knew. Now he's been charged with crime. So your thoughts on Cory Booker and the whole okay for me, not for thee? And do you think this guy's going to see any charges? Or is it just going to go away because, well, he's a left-wing Democrat and the media's on his side?
Hey, look, it's definitely a case of rules for thee and not for me, right? Cory Booker believes he is above the rest of us in the United States. That's why he's got his armed security detail. Look, I don't begrudge him armed security. That's fine if you can afford it and pay for it. It's clear to me from, reading the news articles that Cory Booker knew he was armed, and it appears, and they're going to go back and look at the video, that he walked him around the security at the Capitol in an effort to bypass that because he knew, in fact, that he was armed. And I would go further to say, I'll bet Cory wanted him armed in that Capitol in the office. He calls this guy the Batman. They've been friends since 2014 or something like that, I read, and, best friends. He knows he's carrying. Here's the thing that really gets me upset with this. It's, of course, the rules for thee, not for me kind of thing should make us all incensed and frustrated with these clowns. But this is also a guy, I think, that's a coward. He's a coward to defend himself. So what does he do? He hires and pays somebody else to do it. And I just think he's a coward.
Yeah. Does Cory Booker, Brad, not want to have, does he not want to exercise his own right to carry a firearm? Maybe he does. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past him. I will say this. Barbara Whittington in the chat throws one out. I love a great one from Barbara here in the chat. Would Preparation H work to get rid of Cory Booker? Probably, sadly, no, Barbara, but that's a great legitimate question. But Brad Primo, CEO of Lead Slingers, does, the hypocrisy drips, man. When you watch these guys, you need a napkin to wipe it off. You got to take a shower after you listen to these people. Just your thoughts on the whole thing. This is going to be good, and Justin's will too, I'm sure.
It's frustrating that these people, pontificate and preach to us about what we should and shouldn't be doing, what we should be allowed to own, or how we're allowed to defend ourselves. Because I assure you, Cory Booker probably doesn't live anywhere near all the problems that his policies create. He probably has a nice gated neighborhood. He probably has security around him 24/7. He's living the good life. And while the rest of us, we have to worry about, people who are out on bond or cash-free bond, and the multiple-time felon, still running free because people like Cory Booker want to turn those people loose. And so, the fact that he doesn't, want to defend himself, I don't think that he doesn't want to defend himself. He's just more than happy to let other people do it for him. Again, at the most basic level, Democrats don't have a problem with guns. They have a problem with us having guns. If they have the guns, or they send the people with guns after us, they're totally okay with that. So keep that in mind when Cory Booker says he has a problem with guns. It's not that he has a problem with it. He has a problem with us having them.
And that was borne out and proven just the other day. Justin, come on, man. Okay, Cory Booker clearly doesn't have a problem with guns. He has a problem with your guns and my guns, but his guns are okay because he's Cory Booker. We know that because he knew the security detail was armed. I don't know how these guys look at cameras. I do. I'm being a little facetious here, but these people will look at a camera at midnight and tell you the sun is shining and call you a liar if you call them out on it, and then they have you thrown out of the press conference. Meanwhile, they'll stand there and bitch and moan about your guns while they're surrounded by guns. I have no problem if Cory Booker wants to have security, but why can't I?
And that's a good question, Mark. It's a standard tyrant's motto: guns for me, none for thee. So we know where it leads. They just can't stand the fact that in America, the common folks have guns to defend themselves so that we can be independent and self-reliant rather than relying on the government for everything.
Yeah, it is the height of hypocrisy, Ryan Petty. It's the height of hypocrisy. And I firmly believe, I do believe this. It's hard to get past this and believe it, though, when all you see is ABC and NBC so we can CBS over on CNN, LOL, and MSDNC, because they won't talk about it. I've not seen any reports. I was talking with Gottlieb about it. He didn't see any reports on it. They just give them a pass and let it go. But Ryan, people see this. I have faith that Americans see this and understand the hypocrisy, not just the irony, but the hypocrisy of it. Do you believe that the people actually see it as well, even though all those goofball fake news outlets I just mentioned aren't covering it? I give hats off to Fox for covering it.
Look, I think with social media and what's going on, look, the video of this is going to leak, and folks will be able to see Cory Booker walking him around. I think that's what we're going to see. Look, I don't have any specific knowledge about this, let me be clear, but I think we'll see the video. It'll be very much like that Jamal Bowman, the congressman from New York that went over and pulled the fire alarm because he didn't want to vote on a bill. And
no,
and
he
tried
didn't,
to
even though he
deny
was on
it,
video.
right?
He didn't do it. He didn't do it. He said he didn't do it. We were watching him do it.
Well,
Golly.
and credit to his electorate, he is not in Congress, right? He was voted out and replaced by somebody else because I think they realized he was such a liar. Well, let's let Cory Booker come out and make a statement. Look, I'd like to see the citizen journalists force Cory Booker to make a comment about this, make a statement in public, and then we'll see if it matches the video, and then we'll know. We'll have evidence, prima facie evidence that he's a liar.
But he won't. And if somebody corners him, I mean, imagine a Laura Loomer cornering him on the Capitol grounds and asking, you know what he's going to do? He's going to walk right past her. He's going to say he's got a meeting. He's going to say he's busy. That's their out. We've watched them do it for years. But ladies and gentlemen, you and the rest of America are smarter than they give you credit for, okay? Hence why Donald Trump is in the White House. And by the way, Brad, I don't want to go into tariffs and all that stuff here because this isn't the show for it. But I'll tell you right now, it is mind-boggling to me to see the mainstream. Well, it's not. Again, here I go again. It's not mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that they do what they do, and they just can't tell us the truth. We've got 30 seconds, Brad. But people just do you agree with me that people see it for what it is?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can believe your lying eyes, right? I mean, the media lies. This is all, a game to them. They're getting their scripts from, who knows where. But people with common sense and the normal person who, has any sense at all sees things for what it is. We're not stupid. They think we're stupid, but we're not stupid.
Yeah, hence why Trump is in the White House, and Biden and Kamala Harris and that goofball Waltz in Minnesota. You guys kill me, man. Whatever. Get rid of that guy, please. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast will be back. We're going to talk about Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg. Even though he hasn't been on the news on this topic, we're going to go there. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
30.
All right, final segment already, brother. Holy crap. Just had to do a little research on Mark Wahlberg, a little bit more than I had. Found an interesting piece. This will be interesting. Diametrically opposed. All right, cameras up. We're ready to roll.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sebastian Gorka, letting you know that the Desperado Sport Fishing Crew in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and our right to bear arms. Now, back to Mark Walters.
Wow, final segment already of today's Armed American Radio's Monster Cast here on April 6th. It is now 48 minutes after the hour. We're on the final stretch here. Welcome back inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. And on this Monster Cast, we're in front of this very powerful Sig Sauer microphone, busting out on hundreds of radio stations around the nation, AM, FM, digital, all kinds of stuff. If you do not yet subscribe, please, to Armed American Radio's podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere. Been out there for 16 years on podcast. We've got a new podcast coming up for you. It's a little bit longer than we had anticipated because we had to knock out one group, and we're have to start that. We're about 2 or 3 months behind where we thought we were going to be in March when we were planning on rolling that out, but it will be Unholstered and Unhinged with Mark Walters. We'll let you know when that's ready to pop. So stay tuned. You can subscribe to us on any platform you choose. We're everywhere. Just look up Armed American Radio, hit the subscribe button, and you'll never miss an episode of this live radio show. And we appreciate you being here, as well as all of our partners when we're here at the Patriot Mobile Command Center. It's great to be with you. Justin, I'm going to you now. And I'm going to switch gears here. You know, Mel Gibson has just had his firearms rights restored by Pam Bondi on Thursday last week. A lot of people didn't know that he had lost his firearms right. But that was due to a nonviolent domestic, it was a misdemeanor, and he had lost his firearms rights. Well, we know, we reported a couple weeks ago with you guys that Pam Bondi is now restoring those rights, and that was part of the executive order for Trump. And Gibson got his gun rights back. So, Justin, I'll ask you this question first. Do you have a problem with that?
No, I'm very happy that Gibson got his gun rights back. Good for him. I think we do have a problem with some of those domestic violence laws, and that there isn't proper due process. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest. Sometimes the women make unjustified accusations against men, and the jury and the justice system is not fair.
Yeah, and that flips both sides too. But you're right. It's overwhelmingly flipped that side. It's tilted that side for the most part, but it does go both ways. Now, I want to juxtapose that against Mark Wahlberg. We all know who Mark Wahlberg is, the actor, right? Charismatic guy, makes great movies. I have no problem with Mark Wahlberg. I've never met the man. I did come close when he was filming a movie literally outside my door, not my door at the house, but when I was trying to go to have breakfast at my favorite little dive breakfast bar. And he was out there filming, and they had it all blocked off, so I couldn't get there. But, Mark Wahlberg is like I said, very famous, very charismatic, but he's also been convicted of racially motivated attacks as a teenager, violent felonies, okay? Tossing rocks at people, using the N-word, multiple occasions. He has tried to have his firearm rights restored, Justin. This is a completely different case than a Mel Gibson. How do you square that now? He's tried to make amends. It's been years ago. Where do we draw the line here, man? He didn't use a gun. Yeah. Let me say that. He did not use a gun, and from what I understand, in the other felonies he was convicted of.
I mean, I think once you serve your time, you should get all your rights back personally.
Agreed.
I mean, if you're not violent enough to keep in prison, it's a right. It's not a privilege, so you should get it back.
Bingo. He has a right to defend his family. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Ryan Petty, your thoughts on that? Let's compare the two, and then we'll go to you, Brad, on that too.
Look, I'm with Justin. If you've done the time, you served your time, it's time to restore those rights. We could certainly have a conversation about violent felons or violent felons that used a firearm in a commission of a crime. We could certainly talk about having a different set of rules, but in general, the default, to Justin's point, these are rights. These are not privileges. It's not like taking your driver's license away. This is something that is constitutionally protected, and I think the default is everyone should have that right.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there, Brad, are saying because his crimes were racially motivated. Once a racist, always a racist. Now, we could go down that rabbit hole, all right? Look, there are racists out there who have never committed a crime, who carry guns all the time, and they do so lawfully, regardless of what their personal views are, Brad. I don't know anything about Mark Wahlberg. I will take him at his word. Not just because I see him in movies. He's an actor. But I'll take him at his word over the years that he has fixed himself. He was 15 years old when some of this happened. All right? He was running with gangs, and he has apparently changed his life around. Brad, what are your thoughts on all of them, including Mel Gibson? Compare the two.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, the domestics are like the worst calls to go on with a police officer. And you know what? There's a good chance that, there's plenty of people that get arrested and charged with domestic charges that shouldn't have been arrested at all. And there's a lot of political pressure, a lot of actual pressure put on police officers to arrest somebody in those situations. I mean, the state of Tennessee takes all discretion away from a police officer if they can determine who the quote-unquote primary aggressor is. But it doesn't define what primary aggressor means. And so you have to have the wisdom of Solomon to untangle these dysfunctional situations. And then, you end up arresting somebody, because the problem is that if you don't arrest somebody and then that person kills someone or does something crazy, you're going to be held personally liable. You're going to lose your house. So that ends up getting pushed into officers show up to domestic, someone's going to jail. Right or wrong, someone's going to jail. And sometimes that means that someone who didn't do anything wrong or did not do anything bad enough to go to the level of having to be arrested end up going to jail. They catch that charge, and there goes their firearm rights. So, it doesn't bother me one bit that Mel Gibson's getting his restored. There's probably a lot of other men and a lot of other people just like him that deserve to have their rights restored. And with Wahlberg, 15 years old, give me a break. Like, how many of us out here have did something as teenagers that if we gotten caught, we would probably still be in trouble for it. Like, I don't want to be held responsible or judged or losing my rights because of something I did when I was a kid. Kids are stupid. They can't help it. They do stupid things. And so, giving stuff back to them is fine. I mean, the saying, it's racially motivated, who cares? I mean, that just, let's say he is a racist, that just makes him a jerk. It doesn't make him a violent person. There's actual violent people out there carrying firearms illegally that you need to be able to defend yourself against. So give him back his rights too. I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, there's a study out there. I don't know if I call it a study or not, Justin, but we've probably all heard it. I've heard it many times that virtually every person alive has committed a felony at some point in time in their lives, inadvertently, many intentionally, but many inadvertently. So I'm not going to hold that against somebody, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, Justin, on that. I think you are dead spot on. Guys, we're ready to knock this off. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, thank you for being here, brother. We love you. You are a fan favorite for a reason. Brad Primo, CEO of Lead Slingers, thank you for all of your wit, wisdom, and insight every single week on Armed American Radio. And Ryan Petty, welcome to the table, brother. This was it. Your first go-around as a regular, and it's a small group, man. We appreciate you being here. We love you, and we love everything that you do. Armed American Radio's Monstercast will be back on Sunday for the 3-hour national broadcast on hundreds of stations. But until then, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow, 4 to 5 Eastern, 1 to 2 Pacific, because they don't want us talking about this stuff. That's why we do it. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Make sure to check us out. And again, support us on social media at AAR Mark on Twitter, for X, formerly known as Twitter. You know the routine. Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. YouTube, Armed American Radio. Rumble, Armed American Radio. And guys, make sure to like and share the post. We appreciate that very much. Support us over there. We need your help. And support all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. For those of you tuning in today, appreciate it very much. Subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all your favorite platforms and never miss an episode of the show. Enjoy your day. Stay safe, guys. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance.
X Insurance.
On the Armed American Radio Network.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate it very much. Make sure to share these, okay? If you're watching us on social media platforms, make sure to do that. And again, please subscribe to Armed American Radio podcast. Make sure to never miss an episode. We don't get in your face, none of the email stuff, very few. Every once in a while, I'll send an email out. But you can get on that list if you want to do that by visiting armedamericanradio.com. And like I said, they're few and far between. But when we do, we put one out because it's something that you need to see. I'll keep you posted when the actual FCC-free podcast will be up, Unholstered and Unhinged, with Mark Walters. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll take really good deep dives with our guests and talk about a wide range of life topics, not just gun rights. So that'll be fun. And again, we will be FCC-free, so you know what that means. And we're not talking about gratuitous language and none of that Howard Stern nonsense. But we'll be able to talk about things in ways that we can't talk about on regulated FCC, Federal Communication Controlled airwaves. So until then, guys, we'll see you on the radio tomorrow, 4 to 5 Eastern. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. And never leave your cave without your club. See you on the radio tomorrow, guys. Thanks for being here.
That should be a wrap.
Boom. That's a wrap. Done deal. All right, boss. Good show. Go home. Get the fuck out of there.
Yep, I'm out of here, man. We will see you manana.
Yep, I'm going to do the podcast, and I'm going to go watch TV.
All right, then. Well, got an episode of 1923 to catch up on. I finally got caught up.
Yes.
I was 2 episodes behind.
Oh, did you catch up on both?
I did, and Spencer is still not there.
No, but I have a feeling that's going to play out today. You saw the episode with his girl frozen out there?
Yeah, where she was in the car with those 2 idiots?
Yeah, obviously I can tell you how this works because they obviously win this battle because of the show Yellowstone continues.
Right.
All right, so that's a gimme, but how is she going to get out of this one? Fuck, I don't know. My gut feeling is that she somehow finds the train that he is on and they meet up on the train going to Bozeman. That's because you remember in the last one, they were telling him